Chapter 64. On the side of the street, a beautiful girl dressed in luxurious clothes was sitting in an inconspicuous venison restaurant. It was Tang Xiaoxi. She held a fork in her hand and was full of interest towards a plate of venison. Lin Muyu sat opposite her and rubbed her hands together shyly. "Xiaoxi, can I tell you something?" "Yes, what is it?" "Lend me some money." "Borrow money?" Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but smile. She tilted her head and looked at him teasingly. "Mu, just how poor are you that you want to borrow money from me? Most of the sparring partners in the Holy Cathedral are poor. You know that." Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. "Also, I really need money urgently. I will definitely be able to pay you back soon. Don't worry about that. I will definitely pay you back within 7 days." "All right then," Tang Xiaoxi pouted. "Tell me, how much do you want?" Lin Muyu raised 2 fingers. "This much." You're asking for too much. You want 20,000 Jin coins." Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. "No, it's only 2,000. Lin Muyu wanted to die. "That's more like it." Tang Xiaoxi reached into her pocket and took out 2 heavy coins. She threw them to him and smiled. "Take it." Clack. The 2 transparent coins rolled on the table twice and stopped. They were crystal coins that were almost transparent. They had been carved with very fine craftsmanship, and the Empire's emblem was clearly visible on them. However, these 2 coins were worth 2,000 Jin coins. Lin Muyu picked one up and weighed it in her hand. She couldn't help but laugh. "Xiaoxi, don't tease me. What is this? Is it worth 2,000 Jin coins? Can't be." Tang Xiaoxi raised her eyebrows and stared at him as if he was a country bumpkin. "Mu, you really are from the countryside. You haven't even seen diamond coins before. 1 diamond coin is equivalent to 1,000 gold coins. This is something that every citizen of the Empire knows." On the side, the waiter of the venison restaurant was stunned. "This young lady actually has diamond coins? This is the first time I've seen diamond coins. It's said that ordinary people can't even afford to use this kind of diamond coins. Only those high officials and nobles would use diamond coins." Lin Muyu suddenly understood. She hurriedly stuffed the 2 diamond coins into her waist pocket and said with a smile, "Thank you, Xiaoxi. I'll return it to you within a week. Moreover, I'll return 3,000 Jin coins to you. How about it?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled happily. "Wow, you can make money? Okay. I was just worried about not having enough pocket money. All right, it's a deal." In the afternoon, Lin Muyu took 2 diamond coins to the medicine shop in the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. She walked into the largest medicine shop and said bluntly, "I want to see your manager." When the waiter saw the golden emblem on her chest, he didn't dare to delay and hurriedly went to invite her in. Not long after, a chubby middle-aged man walked over. He was dressed in golden embroidered clothes and cupped his fists. He smiled and said, "Sir, I'm the owner of this medicine shop. I'm called Third Fatty Jin. My surname is Jin, and I'm fat. I'm the 3rd child in my family, so people in the alchemy world call me Third Fatty Jin. Sir, may I know why you're looking for me?" Lin Muyu looked at him deeply and said, "What's your alchemy level?" Third Fatty Jin cupped his fists and smiled. Thank you. I'm a rank 9 king herb. I was chosen by my friends in the alchemy world to be the leader of this medicine shop. Hee. No wonder this fatty's eyes were filled with arrogance. He was a king herb. This kind of alchemy level was probably one of the best in the empire. However, Lin Muyu didn't have much respect for him. After all, he could refine rank 10 medicine himself. He could be said to be the only alchemy god in this world. Moreover, he was proficient in all kinds of different methods of refining medicine. A mere king herb wasn't worthy of his respect. "I want to buy some ingredients from your medicine shop. Do you have 7-colored lotus?" Third Fatty Jin's expression changed when he heard the words 7-colored lotus. "Sir, what do you want 7-colored lotus for?" "To refine medicine." Lin Muyu's answer was very simple. She then said, "The people of the Divine Palace can buy a small amount of 7-colored lotus. Name your price." "Boss Jin." Third Fatty Jin sighed. 7-colored lotus is extremely rare and rare. Furthermore, it's a forbidden medicine in the empire. How about this? I'll give you 1 tail of 7 colored lotus for 200 gold yen coins. How about that? This is already a discounted price. Alright, I want 1 kilogram. Give me some skeleton trees too. Skeleton trees? Third fatty Jean was stunned. 7 colored lotus with skeleton trees. Could it be you? The shock in his heart was at its peak. You want to refine the legendary peak of reverie? You don't have to worry about that. You sell the ingredients, and I'll refine the medicine. Alright. Third fatty Jean immediately ordered someone to weigh 1 kilogram of 7 colored lotus and gave Yang 3 skeleton trees. However, he was still confused. No one had successfully refined Peak of Dreams for thousands of years. Countless people had tried, but none of them had found the right formula or refining method. Could this brat be able to do it? Thinking up to this point, Third fatty Jean suddenly said, "Sir, if you really manage to refine Peak of Dreams, why don't you bring it to the medicine shop and let me take a look? If you want to sell it, Third fatty Jean, will definitely be able to get the highest price for you." Alright, let's talk about it later. Alright. After returning to the divine palace with the pile of ingredients, Yang did not return to his room. Instead, he started to refine medicine in the secret room. This time, he managed to refine 12 bottles of Peak of Dreams. During the refining process, the true dragon essence fire entered Ninghua's hands, and the speed at which the essence was extracted was extremely fast. Therefore, the speed of the refining was also extremely fast. Lin Muyu was very comprehensive in her considerations. She was still in the hypnotic stage of the spirit concentration powder, so she couldn't fall asleep at all. This was very harmful to her body, but Peak of Dreams was a top-notch hypnotic. No matter how hypnotic she would still fall into a deep sleep for 3 days after taking a dose of Peak of Dreams. Also, it seemed like she should give a bottle of Peak of Dreams to Chu Yao to help her cultivate. During the 3 days she slept, Chu Yao should also increase her strength. Thus, she brought 6 bottles of Peak of Dreams with her, and 5 of them were sold in the imperial capital's medicine shop. When Third fatty Jean confirmed that it was the real Peak of Dreams, he almost collapsed. Lin Muyu also asked him to hide his identity as the auctioneer and gave 20% of the auction proceeds to the store. She did not mistreat him. After he was done, he went straight to the Spiritual Medicine Division. The Spiritual Medicine Division was the palace of all the medical officers and master alchemists. With his identity as a gold star sparring master of the Divine Palace, he easily entered Chu Yao's 3rd division. Lin Muyu had been here before, so he could smell the strong smell of medicine. When he arrived at the 3rd division, he saw Chu Yao spreading her snow-white fingers and working hard to extract the medicinal essence of an iron pear flower. Her technique was getting more and more proficient, and she was actually starting to challenge the iron pear flower. "Sister Chu Yao." Lin Muyu's call immediately stopped Chu Yao from refining. She retracted the true qi in her palm, turned around, and jumped into Lin Muyu's embrace. She smiled and said, You came to see me? Yeah, I even brought you a present. What is it?" Lin Muyu took out the bottle of Dream of Returning to the Extreme and said, "Dream of Returning to the Extreme, the legendary medicine that can unlock the greatest potential. Choose a time and drink it, then sleep for 3 days. Your cultivation will definitely increase by leaps and bounds." Really? Chu Yao accepted the gift and was extremely happy. But at this time, a cold voice came from behind. "Where did this stinking brat come from? How dare you trespass into our Spiritual Medicine Division's Alchemy Division? Get the hell out of here." Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel angry. She turned around and saw that the newcomer was a young man around 25 years old. He wore a golden herb emblem on his chest, while Chu Yao wore a silver one. This was enough to prove that this young man's alchemist rank was higher than Chu Yao's. Moreover, it was easy to read something from his jealous gaze. This person seemed to be interested in Chu Yao. "Deacon Luo Bin, he's my friend. He's here to visit me. He didn't trespass into the alchemy division," Chu Yao explained. Luo Bin raised an eyebrow and said, The alchemy division is the most secretive place in the entire spiritual medicine division. Chu Yao, you should know the rules of the spiritual medicine division, right? Chu Yao wanted to say something more, but Lin Muyu flashed in front of her and looked at Luo Bin coldly. She smiled faintly and said, I'm a sparring partner from the Holy Temple. My name is Lin Ji. Deacon Luo Bin, is there a problem? Someone from the Holy Temple? Luo Bin laughed coldly. So you're a lackey of the Holy Temple. No wonder you're so arrogant. A mere sparring partner dares to behave so atrociously in the spiritual medicine division? Do you think the alchemists of the spiritual medicine division are all a bunch of powerless trash? Get out of my way. I want to teach this brat who doesn't know his place a lesson. The group of alchemists stepped aside one after another. Luo Bin raised his palm and a blood-red true energy hovered in his palm. It quickly condensed into a blood-red longsword. It was actually a weapon-type martial soul. Normally, cultivators who possessed this kind of martial soul would be very good at attacking. Therefore, Lin Muyu had no choice but to be careful. At this time, a young alchemist not far away kindly reminded, Lin Ji, you have to be careful. Deacon Luo Bin is the son of the imperial minister. You must not hurt him. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sneer. No wonder this brat was so arrogant. His strength was already very close to that of a battle saint. Originally, none of the sparring partners in the Holy Temple could be his match. However, it was his bad luck that he met her today. Here it comes. Luo Bin took a big stride forward and the martial soul blade in his hand flew up. He had the momentum to split his opponent into two from the shoulder. At this moment, Lin Muyu had already made up her mind to teach him a lesson. Otherwise, this Luo Bin would definitely use his power and position in the spiritual medicine department to do some despicable things to Chu Yao. The true energy of the fallen star step flashed. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Muyu moved 2 meters horizontally, perfectly dodging Luo Bin's attack. She turned around and raised her left arm. Her true energy turned into streaks of lightning and gathered on her arm. Then, she swept it towards Luo Bin's back. Luo Bin's back received a heavy blow. He felt a sweet taste in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it! How could he endure this kind of humiliation in front of Chu Yao? He turned around and pounced towards Lin Muyu like a wild beast. Lin Muyu didn't move an inch. However, the martial soul gourd came out of her body. The black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall flew out together. With a pung sound, Luo Bin was knocked back. His face was already covered in blood. Luo Bin fell to the ground. One of his front teeth had also fallen out. He roared in anger, "You bastard!" Lin Muyu took a step forward and stepped on his chest. She said coldly, "Chu Yao is my elder sister. It is natural for me to come and see her. You humiliated the Holy Temple first. Don't blame me for being too harsh." Chapter 65. You lowly commoner, you son of a bitch. Luo Bin struggled to get up from the ground, his eyes filled with venom as he said fiercely, "Just you wait, the minister's office will not let this go, and the spirit medicine department will not let you off either. Just you wait." As he spoke, Luo Bin turned around and left, and the crowd of alchemists also dispersed with a sigh. You've caused trouble." Chu Yao looked at him reproachfully and said, "We've just arrived at the capital, how could you offend someone like Luo Bin? His father is the minister, and he's in charge of all sorts of government matters. If we offend him, how will we continue to live in the capital?" Lin Muyu felt a bit guilty and rubbed her nose, saying, "I just can't stand his arrogant attitude, and I can't stand him fantasizing about you." When Chu Yao heard the last sentence, she felt her heart beat wildly, and she couldn't help but burst into laughter, as if the spring wind had melted a pond of water. She said, "All right, I know you're doing this for my own good, but I really can't stay in the spirit medicine department. You should hurry back to the temple, at least the people in the temple can protect you." "Hurry back? Sister Chu Yao, are you all right?" Lin Muyu asked with concern. She was worried that Luo Bin wouldn't be able to find her and would make a move on Chu Yao. Chu Yao shook her head with a smile. "Don't worry, I'm just a weak little girl, and I'm also a silver needle level alchemist in the spirit medicine department. My name is already on the books, so he probably can't do anything to me. Moreover, the commander of the Imperial Army, Feng Jixing, and my brother came to visit me last time, and I've met with the attendants of the Spirit Medicine Department. At least Luo Bin will give Feng Jixing some face. That's good. Take the dream returning peak as soon as possible, and then find a safe place to sleep for 3 days. Your cultivation will definitely improve a lot. I'm going back to cultivate as well. Alright, go ahead. Looking at Lin Muyu's handsome figure in the distance, this young man's temperament was also subtly changing as his cultivation improved. Now, the confidence he exuded was enough to move a young girl like Chu Yao. Moreover, they had been together for a long time, so it was inevitable that feelings would be born. Chu Yao let out a soft sigh and remained silent. Hundreds of thoughts were running through her mind, but she also thought about the relationship between Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu. The fact that Tang Xiaoxi had entered the Holy Temple to protect Lin Muyu had long been known by the entire city. It must be known that the Grand Deacon of the Holy Temple, Lei Hong, and Duke of Zhanglan, Tang Lan, were close friends. There were even rumors that Lei Hong was Duke of Zhanglan's subordinate. Because of the relationship between Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu, Lei Hong would naturally protect Lin Muyu in every possible way. After thinking about it, Chu Yao could only continue to refine medicine. Rushing back to the Holy Temple, he did not go straight to the secret chamber, but instead went to the main hall of the Holy Temple. 2 guards carried their weapons and asked, "Sparring Master, what are you doing here?" "I want to see Grandpa Lei Hong." "Wait for us to report." Not long after, Lei Hong walked out of the Holy Temple drowsily and asked with a smile, "What's wrong, kid?" Lin Muyu said, "I want to sleep and cultivate for 3 days, so I hope that Grandpa Lei Hong can send someone to guard outside my secret chamber. Otherwise, I'm worried that my enemies will hurt me while I'm asleep." Lei Hong squinted his eyes. "Didn't you just take the spirit concentration powder? I know the effects of the congealing flower. How can you still sleep?" "Anyway, I can sleep." It seemed that Chu Chu did not mention to Lei Hong about the dream back to the peak. That was good. Lei Hong nodded. "Okay, I will let Deacon Guyang cultivate outside your secret chamber for the next 3 days. Don't worry, no one in the Holy Temple will harm you." "Many thanks, Grandpa Lei Hong." Returning to the secret chamber, he was relieved this time. He took out a bottle of dream back to the peak, opened the cap and took a sniff. There was a hint of sweetness in the fragrance of the rainbow lotus. He raised his head and drank it. The next moment he felt dizzy and drowsy. As expected, the effects of dream back to the peak were stronger than the spirit concentration powder, and he was forced to sleep. This sleep was very long. In the dream, he felt like he had experienced a catastrophe. His whole body was burning, and his bones felt like they were on fire. The extremely hot flame burned every inch of his skin. Golden light flashed in front of his eyes, and he saw a 5-clawed dragon with golden scales dancing in the air. One of the dragon's whiskers was shaking, and a pair of cold eyes was looking at him as if he was the king of the earth. He suddenly woke up from the dream. It was early in the morning, and he could hear the bell ringing for breakfast in the Holy Temple. Clenching his fists, Lin Muyu took a deep breath. He could feel a vast power circulating in his body. He knew that his cultivation had improved a lot even without measuring it with any instrument. He raised his fist, and Zhen Qi was enshrouded in it. He smiled, and with a slight push of his Zhen Qi, it quickly turned into a light purple flame. It was the true dragon primary fire. The destructive power of this fire was very strong, and it could not be used inappropriately. Lin Muyu even suspected that the destructive power of the true dragon primary fire could easily defeat an opponent of the same cultivation level, or even kill them directly. Stepping out of the secret chamber, Gu Yang was taking a morning breath. The so-called morning breath was to breathe in and out the natural qi in the morning. This was Gu Yang's cultivation method. He only did this once a day, and Gu Yang would not miss it. Opening one eye, Gu Yang glanced at Lin Muyu, and said with a smile, "Lin Ji, your cultivation has improved. This old man won't send you off. You can go and have your breakfast before going to the temple." "Thank you, Master Gu Yang, for protecting me." Lin Muyu cupped his hands and bowed respectfully. Gu Yang smiled and did not reply. In fact, this kid's cultivation was indeed very good, but he was humble and cautious, without any arrogance. There were fewer and fewer young cultivators like him. Looking at so many young warriors in the holy temple, Zhen Fang was too arrogant because of his noble background, while Zhao Jin, Ouyang Qiu and the others were too murderous and arrogant. Lin Muyu, who had started as a sparring partner, seemed to have a much higher state of mind than these people. The sea can accommodate hundreds of rivers, and those who have a broad mind will eventually reach a higher level of cultivation. Master Lin Ji. A servant called out from afar, and said with a respectful smile, Great Deacon Lei Hong is calling you to the holy temple. Okay. Lin Muyu did not eat, and went straight to the holy temple. Far away, Lei Hong sat on the seat of the great deacon, and said with a smile, Lin Yi, you're here? Go to the testing device and see how much your cultivation has improved. With a leap, he landed on the bright and transparent disc, and with a low shout, he activated his true qi. Immediately, his true qi was injected into the device under his feet, and a spirit stone beside him quickly leaped up, 5 long and 7 short. Battle Saint, not bad, not bad. Lei Hong stroked his beard, and said with a satisfied smile, All right, go, the morning training is about to begin, your body has fully recovered, right? I have recovered, thank you, Grandpa Lei Hong. Go. Yes. After finishing his meal, the time was just right, and when he arrived at the training hall, a group of sparring partners revealed a cheerful smile. Master Lin Ji is here. That's great. After her bloodline was reconstructed by the dragon forging bone remnant scroll, Lin Muyu's aura had also changed a little. Although she was amiable and approachable, there was a kind of awe-inspiring feeling that made a group of sparring partners feel reverence. Lin Ji, you finished your closed-door training? A young Copper Star sparring partner said with a smile. Lin Muyu knew this person, and although she did not know his real name, his nickname was Little Bean Sprout. His strength was not bad, but he seemed to be a little off today. His face was full of bruises, and his nose was crooked, as if the bridge of his nose was broken. Lin Muyu could not help but frown, and asked, Little Bean Sprout, what happened to your nose? And nothing. Little Bean Sprout hurriedly turned his face away. Qin Xiling, who was at the side, frowned and said, Lin Ji, Little Bean Sprout fought with Silver Star instructor Deng Zilin yesterday, and it was Deng Zilin who injured him. He did not control his strength at all. Little Bean Sprout gritted his teeth. Xiling, don't say any more. At this moment, a sturdy Silver Star instructor walked over. He was wearing armor, and there was a proud smile on his face. It was Deng Zilin. He raised his gaze and said, Lord Deacon, I still want to fight with Little Bean Sprout today. He is my best punching bag. The deacon on duty was really Zhen Fang, and he sneered, As you wish. Little Bean Sprout's body trembled, and he lowered his head, not daring to look up. This was the fate of the Holy Temple's sparring partners, lowly. Moreover, most of the sparring partners were commoners, and for the sake of their livelihood and that bit of Jinin coins, they were willing to risk their lives to get beaten up. Although Lin Muyu had a good background in reality, and was the young master of the Long Exang group, he had no reason to sympathize with people like Little Bean Sprout who came from a poor background. Humans were born kind, and to him, this seemed to be a kind of instinct. Raising his arms slightly, Lin Muyu smiled and said, Lord Deng Zilin is a Silver Star instructor, and sparring with a Copper Star sparring partner is not up to standard. Why don't you let me spar with you today? Deng Zilin's gaze turned cold and he said, Lin Ji, you want to stand up for others? Heh, don't think that just because the great deacon is protecting you, you can do whatever you want. Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows and said, Why, you don't dare? Why not? Deng Zilin snorted coldly and said, Let's spar then. Lord Deacon, please arrange for me to spar with Lin Ji. Zhen Fang nodded happily and said, As you wish. A few minutes later, in the training room, Deng Zilin took off his armor, and his strong muscles shone brightly. He summoned a ferocious tiger martial soul, and said with a smile, Come on, Lin Ji, let me see if you have 3 heads and 6 arms. As soon as he finished speaking, he directly punched at Lin Muyu's chest like a thunderbolt. Lin Muyu did not summon his martial soul, and raised his arm to block, relying on the strength of skin forging and bones honing to resist. Under the direct attack, he did not move an inch, but Deng Zilin was actually forced to take a few steps back. In an instant, Deng Zilin's face was a little pale. He knew that Lin Muyu was strong, but he did not know that this kid could block his attack without the support of his martial soul. The orange martial soul's power slowly flowed, and Lin Muyu summoned the black tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall, and said with a smile, "Lord Deng, you are too impatient. Come on, we have the whole morning to spar." Deng Zilin was defeated in one attack, and he could only complain in his heart. Chapter 66. Someone's dead, someone's dead. A clamor of shouting could be heard in the hall. Deng Zilin was already panting, his arms and fists covered in blood. Lin Muyu didn't retaliate, but he was injured by Lin Muyu's iron wall defense. He couldn't help but look at this #1 sparring partner in a new light. At this moment, the clamor outside gave him a chance to catch his breath. "What's wrong? Who's dead?" Deng Zilin stopped and asked. Lin Muyu frowned and retracted her martial spirit. "I don't know, let's go out and take a look?" A corpse lay quietly in the hall of the training hall. It was a sparring partner, his chest pierced by a sword. Fresh blood flowed out, and there were no signs of life. Moreover, this person was someone Lin Muyu recognized. It was the little bean sprout that she had tried to help not long ago. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu squeezed through the crowd and knelt on one knee beside little bean sprout's corpse. She lifted up his clothes with trembling hands. This was not a normal sword wound, but a shock wave after the sword pierced through his heart, creating a fist-sized bloody hole. Little Beansprout's entire heart had been crushed into pieces. Who was it? He stood up abruptly and roared. His palm was already on the hilt of the burning prairie sword. Not far away, Ouyang Qiu held a thin sword in his hand. Blood was still dripping from the blade. He said indifferently, "It was me. I accidentally killed him in a moment of excitement during training. I'll accept any punishment." "You killed him on purpose." Lin Muyu went straight to the point. "Is that so? Do you have proof?" Ouyang Qiu sneered and walked forward. He stood in front of little Beansprout's corpse, as if it had nothing to do with him. The deacon, Zhen Fang, said, "Stop arguing. The deacon will be here soon. He will take care of it." Everyone nodded. A few minutes later, Lei Hong walked into the hall. His gaze swept past Lin Muyu, Ouyang Qiu, and Zhen Fang before landing on little Beansprout's corpse. "What happened?" Raham asked. Ouyang Qiu knelt on one knee and said, "Great Deacon, I accidentally killed this Copper Star sparring master during the trial. I am willing to accept any punishment. I only ask for Great Deacon's forgiveness." Lei Hong frowned and said, "Deacon Guyang, how should we deal with this matter?" Guyang opened the thick scroll and carefully read through it. Little Beansprout is a Copper Star sparring master from a commoner background. His annual salary is 50 Jin coins. Ouyang Qiu is a general in the Marquis manor and is a third-class noble. According to the Empire's laws, if a noble accidentally kills a commoner, he only needs to compensate the commoner with 10 years of his income in order to be pardoned. Thus, according to the law, Ouyang Qiu accidentally killed Little Beansprout, so he has to compensate Little Beansprout's family 500 Jin coins. What? Lin Muyu was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, "Deacon Guyang, Ouyang Qiu clearly killed him on purpose. You didn't even examine the corpse carefully. How can you be sure that it was an accident?" Guyang said, "Lin Ji, pay attention to your words. According to the Empire's laws, a noble killing a commoner is a lesser crime. Don't tell me you don't know this?" Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said angrily, "A life for a life. What nobles and commoners? What kind of bullshit law is this?" Lei Hong shouted, "Lin Ji, shut up. You've lost your composure. Go back to your room and cultivate." Guyang also nodded and said, "Lin Ji, go back to your room. There's no need to say anything else." Lin Muyu was so angry that her body was trembling. Is there still justice in this world? Are all of you blind? Ouyang Qiu intentionally killed Little Bean Sprout, don't you understand? Lin Ji. Lei Hong roared, and an invisible pressure descended. Immediately, Lin Muyu felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him, and he couldn't help but want to kneel down. However, he gritted his teeth and circulated his true qi. He glared at Lei Hong and said through gritted teeth, "Someone must pay for Little Bean Sprout's death." Pa pa pa. The stone tiles under his feet cracked, but he still struggled to hold on. The veins on his body bulged, and under the pressure of Rayam's domain, the blood vessels in his eyes began to slowly seep out. His entire left eyeball was instantly dyed red, but Rayam could clearly see the determination and clarity in his unwillingness to compromise in the blood. Go back and rest. Lei Hong suddenly retracted his pressure and said indifferently, remember, there are some things you can't interfere in, and there are some rules you can't question. The Empire's laws are not something you can question. Lin Muyu's whole body was trembling, and he was panting heavily. At the side, the Silver Star instructor Zhang Wei patted his shoulder and said, "Foolish brat, hurry up and leave before the head deacon is completely enraged." Qin Xiling also said, "Lin Ji, hurry up and leave. Little bean sprouts matter. There will be justice in the future." Ouyang Qiu raised his blood-stained sword and knelt on the ground. He raised his head and said, "Head deacon, this subordinate is willing to bear all the punishment. I will personally deliver these 500 Jin Yin coins to Little Bean Sprout's parents." Then got it. Lei Hong said indifferently, "Instructor Ouyang, you must be careful in your training in the future. I do not wish to see such a situation again." Ouyang Qiu raised his head, and his eyes met Lin Muyu's gaze. Immediately, a trace of complacency appeared in his eyes. Obviously, Ouyang Qiu killed Little Bean Sprout to dampen Lin Muyu's spirit. Lin Muyu dared to stand out to protect Little Bean Sprout, so Ouyang Qiu killed Little Bean Sprout to let him know who had the final say in the Divine Hall. I have never seen such a fast sword before. Zhong Susue chuckled and cupped his fists. Little Marquis is too kind. It's not that my sword is fast, but that Little Marquis has scruples. I don't have any scruples. Zhong Susue is only a level 62 heavenly venerate and isn't stronger than Little Marquis. Tell me, Little Marquis must have someone you want to eliminate by asking me to come here, right? Yes. Zhen Fang nodded and said, I need you to help me enter the sacred hall to kill someone. What? Killing people in the War Saint Hall? Zhong Sui shuddered slightly. What, you don't dare? Zhen Fang sneered. Zhong Sui said faintly, then I'll have to pay more. The risk of killing someone in the sacred temple is too great. After all, Raham, that old man in the sanctuary realm, is still in the sacred temple. It's fine if I kill him easily, but if I get entangled, I'm afraid I'll lose my life in the sacred temple. Tell me, who do you want me to kill? Linji, Zhen Fang said lightly. Oh, are you the rumored new Gold Star sparring master in the sanctum? That's not all. This person is the fugitive Lin Muyu of Kathaya City. So it's the Lin Muyu who killed 4 of the 7 martial saints. Zhong Sui couldn't help laughing and raised 3 fingers. Little Marquis, as long as you give me this number, I promise you will see Lin Muyu's head tomorrow morning. 30,000 Jinin coins? Jin Fang asked. Haha. Zhong Sui's laughter reached the sky. Little Marquis sure knows how to joke. I'm talking about 300,000 Jinin coins, not a mere 30,000. What? Zhen Fang was shocked. A mere Lin Muyu, his head is worth that much? Zhong Sui sneered. Songnan Province's governor Hu Tianing offered a bounty of 100,000 Jinin coins but still failed to capture this person. Moreover, more than half of the 7 martial saints died. Now that Lin Muyu has entered the sacred temple, his cultivation has increased even more, and he has the old man Rayam's protection. Killing him is equivalent to putting your own head on the line. I only want 300,000 Jinin coins. I'm just worried that Little Marquis won't be able to take out more. Zhen Fang's eyes were cold. It's a deal. Chapter 67. In the secret room, the young man's body was surrounded by flames. Lin Muyu's Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll had been cultivated to the third realm, Rebirth. This also meant that after the bone tempering, his bone marrow was slowly regenerating, and the regeneration of his bone marrow would reshape his bloodline. In fact, his bloodline had already begun to silently transform, and even he himself could feel it. Now, when he cultivated, the speed at which his qi circulated in his bloodline could be said to be a world of difference compared to the past. His instantaneous explosive power had also been greatly enhanced. After the reshaping of his bloodline, whether it was speed or strength, they were completely new. Slowly opening his eyes, he stretched his arms and then walked to the stone door. He wolfed down the dinner that the servant had brought and continued to cultivate. Keng. The burning prairie sword was unsheathed. Under the infusion of qi, the sword's blade slowly emitted a fiery light. This long sword from Yi Liang was indeed a treasure. The wind-riding sword technique flowed like water. With his talent and comprehension, he had already mastered the technique. In fact, Lin Muyu's current swordsmanship was considered to be above average. Unless he encountered a top-notch expert with extraordinary swordsmanship, he would still be able to withstand 1 or 2 blows from her. Pa pa pa! Lightning surged on the blade of the sword. With a low shout, he instantly unleashed a lightning strike. The blade of the sword and the lightning split the air into 2. The speed was so fast that it even created a temporary vacuum in the path of the slash. The feeling of the air being compressed was very strong. Xianxia's ferocious smile appeared in his mind, and his sword art gradually became a little messy. He thought of Xianxia's secret art, myriad sword art. It was an ability to use qi to control the sword, and it was considered the best sword art. Unfortunately, he knew nothing about it. He suddenly smiled as he thought of the mysterious owner of the Wanxing weapon shop, the Sword Elder. It was obvious that the Sword Elder was also an extraordinary swordsman. His mastery of using qi to control the sword seemed to be above that of Ouyang Qiu and Zhen Fang. If that was the case, perhaps learning the Sword Elder's imperial sword technique was also a way to become stronger. However, the Sword Elder had an eccentric personality and was obsessed with collecting swords. He might not be willing to teach him the sword technique. The way of the sword was ever-changing, but if one couldn't master controlling the sword with qi, it would always be a pity. After all, when it was necessary in battle, controlling the sword with qi could play an amazing role. Forget it, I'll go back to the Sword Elder and test him. After practicing the wind-riding swordsmanship 5 times in a row, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief and returned to the stone bed to cultivate his jinqi. The jinqi in his body was still not strong enough. Outside the window, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. In the blink of an eye, it was almost midnight. Rustle! With a soft sound, he opened his eyes and looked towards the stone door. There seemed to be a flash of qi. Could it be that Grandpa Lei Hong had come to spy on his cultivation again? Thinking of Lei Hong, Lin Muyu felt angry and funny at the same time. In fact, Lei Hong was more like a naughty child. He was happy to bet with his peers like Chu Chu and Guiyang, and he also took special care of Lin Muyu. Although Zhang Xian was almost injured during the day, it was not Lei Hong's fault. Lei Hong was the great deacon of the temple and one of the 6 white-robed royal guards of the Qin Empire. Naturally, he would strictly uphold the laws of the empire. Lin Muyu came from a civilized society, so he would naturally be angry. However, in the eyes of Zhang Wei, Qin Xiling, and Lei Hong, an instructor killing a sparring partner and a noble killing a commoner seemed to be a very normal thing. Thinking of this, Zhang Xian began to understand Grandpa Lei Hong. He closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. The true qi in his body slowly flowed through his veins. Even the naked eye could see the faint image of a fiery red true dragon circling around his body. Unknowingly, his veins were being tempered and reshaped again and again. Of course, Lin Muyu was still unaware of the changes that were happening to him. He completely relaxed his mind and allowed the true qi to circulate within his body. Another huge advantage of the Dragon Forging Bone Remnant Scroll was unlimited cultivation. Every time the true qi circulated within his body, his strength would increase by a little. Repeating this process as long as he continued to cultivate according to the mental cultivation method, his strength would naturally become stronger and stronger. Just as he was about to enter a state of deep sleep, the voice of the female elf official Lulu suddenly sounded in his ears. "Big brother, be careful." Suddenly, a chill came from above his head. Lin Muyu was startled awake from his cultivation. An endless killing intent came from above. Without thinking, he turned sideways and rolled off the stone bed. Flames surged behind him. The attacker's sword directly pierced through the stone bed, splitting it into pieces. Wang, Lin Muyu quickly summoned his martial spirit. As if facing a great enemy, he released the dragon scale wall, mystic tortoise shell, and all the other martial spirit skills. He opened his palm and pulled out the burning prairie sword. Under the instigation of his true chi, the burning prairie sword emitted a strong fiery light, illuminating everything in front of him. The attacker did not say anything. He raised his sword and launched another attack. Ho! His martial spirit was a fox. However, it was not Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox. Instead, it was a kind of fox with black fur. It was extremely sinister and soundless. This also made Lin Muyu suddenly realize why he was caught off guard and did not sense this person's aura. So it was the advantage of his innate martial spirit. This person's martial spirit could conceal his own aura. 5 consecutive sword flowers bloomed. In an instant, 5 sword thrusts erupted. This person's sword was too fast. However, after Lin Muyu had gone through the bone tempering and marrow cleansing, even his eyesight had improved a lot. He could see clearly. With a shake of the burning prairie sword, Keng, he deflected 3 attacks. The remaining 2 were all eaten by the mystic tortoise shell. Pu-piu, 2 holes appeared on the mystic tortoise shell. Lin Muyu also felt a pain in her chest. The moment she came into contact with the sword, her martial spirit had already been injured. But, with a low roar, countless gourd vines drilled out from the cracks of the stone and attacked the opponent. The attacker clearly had extraordinary skills. He did not retreat. His long sword was filled with the luster of Do Qi. With a loud roar, the sword light wreaked havoc, engulfing the surroundings and chopping all the gourd vines into pieces. After Lin Muyu attacked, the angle of the lightning strike's attack was actually seen through. It was directly blocked. The attacker smiled complacently. With a swing of his sword, the steel sword actually produced a suction force. It brought the burning prairie sword downwards while it swept the sword in the air. Lin Muyu hurriedly lowered her head. A chill swept past the top of her head, even cutting off a few strands of her hair. Damn, this person's sword was fast and fierce. She held the burning prairie sword tightly and retreated. She used the falling star steps to dodge, but behind her was a field of coldness. The attacker's fierce sword landed on the mystic tortoise shell. The mystic tortoise shell finally broke. Sword domain. Amidst the attacker's low roar, the ground under Lin Muyu's feet seemed to have become a purgatory abyss. Streaks of sword chi wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It was as if millions of sword chi were waiting for her next move. If she was the slightest bit careless, she would end up being dismembered by tens of thousands of swords. This was probably a higher level of using chi to control the sword, right? In this desperate situation, Lin Muyu stepped on the ground with 1 foot and leaped up. While in the air, she dodged the sword chi attack and raised her hand to throw a flying dagger. Using a hidden weapon to attack? Despicable! The attacker dodged the demonic noise dagger, but the sword domain was also broken. Sword chi absolute track. He let out a low roar and loosened the hand holding the sword. The long sword flew over quickly, bringing with it streaks of sword chi. The secret room was too small, and Lin Muyu had no way to dodge. He quickly opened his hand, and countless green vines rose up to form a barrier. At the same time, he used the remaining true chi to form the dragon scale wall. Bang, bang, bang. Amidst the violent sound, the opponent's sword chi instantly shattered the dragon scale wall's defense. Puchi. The long sword pierced through his shoulder. Lin Muyu took a few steps back, and blood spurted out. He had been at a disadvantage. His burning prairie sword couldn't even touch a hair of his opponent. This was the brilliance of the sword control technique. It killed people from 10 meters away, and it didn't give the opponent any chance. Ha! The attacker laughed proudly and took off his mask, revealing a thin face. He mocked, "I was wondering who that Lin Muyu was. Now that I think about it, he's just SOSO. You should die contentedly under my sword." As he spoke, he opened his hand, and an invisible force drove the sword back. But Lin Muyu suddenly opened his hand, and the true chi of the dragon scale wall lingered around his fingers. He forcefully grabbed the edge of Zhong Sui's sword. Under the skin tempering and bone tempering, his bones were surprisingly hard, and he didn't feel much pain. He suddenly pulled back and shouted, "Do you still want to take back your weapon?" Zhong Sui's eyes turned cold. What a lunatic! He flew forward, grabbed the hilt with one hand, and activated his Do Chi. Suddenly, the long sword began to flip, and the invisible sword chi raged, shredding the skin of Lin Muyu's left hand inch by inch. Instantly, it was a bloody mess. But what Lin Muyu wanted was just this one chance. Voila! A purple flame scuttled on the burning prairie sword, true dragon vital fire. When Lin Muyu attacked with a vigorous aura, Zhong Sui's eyes were filled with disdain. Because in his eyes, Lin Muyu's attack didn't have any technique, and it even looked very clumsy. Even a 10-year-old child could do this. Ha! With a shout, 3 chi armors condensed in front of his chest. Zhong Sui mocked, "Come on, kid." Roar! The true dragon vital fire lingered around the burning prairie sword. When the sword was less than 10 centimeters away from his chest, Zhong Sui suddenly felt something was wrong. It was a power that he had never experienced before, overbearing and vigorous. Pooh! The blade pierced through the chi armor, and the true dragon vital fire burned through his defense. It quickly pushed into his chest and pierced through Zhong Sui's heart. Killed in one strike. Zhong Sui's entire body was nailed to the stone wall by Lin Muyu's sword. His eyes were filled with endless fear and unwillingness. Before he died, he looked at Lin Muyu and muttered, "For you." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "Are you sent by Zhenfang?" "Yes, then you can die." The true dragon vital fire was activated, and it directly burned Zhong Sui's heart into charcoal. Chapter 68. It was a pity that Zhong Shuxi's swordsmanship and Do Chi were above Lin Muyu's, but he had underestimated his opponent and underestimated Lin Muyu's ability to counterattack. In the end, he was killed by true dragon essence fire. Lin Muyu softly leaned against the bed and took out a bottle of healing medicine and poured it on the wound. She didn't call for help and just sat there to recover her energy. She had to quickly heal the wound, or else it would be terrible if there were any internal injuries left. In the morning, the holy temple was in an uproar. A top-notch assassin had infiltrated the holy temple to assassinate a Venus training partner and was instead killed by the training partner. This news quickly spread throughout the holy temple and even more than half of the imperial capital. This was no small matter. What kind of place was the holy temple? It was the symbol of the empire's strongest power. Now, someone actually dared to enter the holy temple to kill someone. This was simply too daring. Pang! Lei Hong's palm landed on the blue embossed table. His face was full of anger as he faced a group of deacons, instructors, and training partners. His voice was abnormally cold as he said, "The holy temple is heavily guarded. Just who let this assassin in?" Zheng Fang stood there expressionlessly. Gu Yang said, "Great Deacon, we have found out. This assassin is called Zhong Shuxi and is a notorious bounty hunter in the Lanyan city. As long as he is given enough Jin-in coins, he is willing to do anything. This Zhong Shuxi even said that as long as someone can pay a sky-high price, he would dare to infiltrate the Zetian temple and take the emperor's head, the radiant king's head. Simply too daring." Lei Hong's face was ashen. Zhong Shuxi infiltrated the holy temple to kill someone. This was simply challenging his authority as the lord of the holy temple. Investigate thoroughly. The holy temple's walls are very high and there are guards at night. It is impossible to climb over the walls. Zhong Shuxi must have been brought in by one of our own. Investigate thoroughly who brought someone in yesterday. Gu Yang cupped his fists and said. At this time, Zhang Wei turned to Zheng Fang and said with a smile, "Oh, at dusk yesterday, I saw the young marquis bringing a few servants into the holy temple. I don't know if I saw wrongly." Zheng Fang's face turned cold. "Zhang Wei, what do you mean? Are you suspecting me?" "I wouldn't dare." Zhang Wei cupped his fists. This subordinate was just thinking of this matter and did not mean anything. The little marquis is an open and candid person, a man of honor and righteousness. I, Zhang Wei, have no doubt about the little marquis character. It is absolutely not the little marquis who wants to kill Lin Ji. Zhen Fang's face was extremely ugly, alternating between green and white. Everyone in the Divine Temple knew that Zhen Fang wanted to kill Lin Ji, so he was the biggest suspect. Moreover, a bounty assassin like Zhong San could only be hired by a high official or noble like Zhen Fang. Zhang Wei was born a commoner, so he naturally stood on Lin Ji and Little Beansprout's side. In fact, he was so hot-blooded that he didn't even care about his own safety. In this world, the only thing he wanted was to be happy. Raham said coolly, "No need to argue. I'll investigate this matter personally. Once I find the culprit, I won't let them off lightly. The Holy Temple is the symbol of the Empire's power, and it cannot be blasphemed by vile people." The group of people cupped their fists. "Yes, Grand Deacon. Then let's disperse." After everyone dispersed, Raham called out to Lin Muyu, "Lin Ji, wait a moment." "Grandpa Raham, what's the matter?" He stopped and asked. "How's your forging dragon bone remnant scroll recently? Are your injuries serious?" Raham asked with concern. Lin Muyu's heart warmed, and he smiled awkwardly. "I don't know how my cultivation is going, but it should be considered as a small success. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to kill this Zhong San. And I've checked Zhong San's wound, it was a one-hit kill. You must have used your own body as bait, otherwise this kind of bounty assassin who kills people like flies would not have been defeated so easily." "Yes, Grandpa Raham. I was too lazy, I was cultivating last night, so I didn't go to your place. It's all right, I can protect myself." Lin Muyu smiled confidently. "That's good, go." "Yes." Because of his injuries, Gu Yang gave him 3 days of rest, which made Lin Muyu feel like a fish in water. He just wanted to use these 3 days to do something. He went out and went straight to the direction of Wanxing weapon shop. Next, it was time to ask the sword elder to teach him the imperial sword technique. But he didn't go far. Suddenly a horse galloped from afar. The horse was a beautiful girl in a green dress, about 18 years old, and she was extremely beautiful. She shouted from afar, "Excuse me, are you Master Lin Ji?" "N." Lin Muyu stopped. "Who are you?" The girl turned over and dismounted, her hands lightly clasped on her lower abdomen, and bowed to do a standard imperial lady's bow. She smiled and said, "My name is Jin Xiaoteng. I'm Jin Ziju's daughter from the imperial medicine shop. Hee, I'm also the deputy leader of the imperial business. Master, the auction for the Peak of Dreams that you consigned to the medicine shop has been completed. I'm here to find you." "Oh, it's Miss Jean." Lin Muyu beamed. In his eyes, this Jin Xiaoteng had turned into a gold-plated beauty. She was here to give him money. Jin Xiaoteng was very polite. She smiled and bowed, saying, "Master Lin, the 5 bottles of Dream of Extreme Peak that you sold were sold for 4,500, 5,200, 5,400, 5,500, and 5,700 gold coins. After deducting 20% of the transaction fees, you will receive 21,040 gold coins. Dad said that since this is the first time we are working together, he will give you a round figure of 22,000 gold coins. Here are 22 diamond coins, please count them, Master." She raised a golden pouch which was filled with 22 diamond coins. Lin Muyu's heart leaped with joy as she felt like a nouveau riche. This feeling was amazing. After accepting the bag, Lin Muyu said happily, "Thank you, Miss Jean." Jin Xiaoteng shook her head with a smile and took out a bright, transparent card from her bosom. She said, "Since the transaction has exceeded 20,000 Jin dollars, according to the rules of the trading house, This diamond card is a gift to you. Customers with a diamond card can enjoy a 30% discount on purchases in the Imperial Trading House and a 10% commission on sales. In addition, the diamond card has a balance of 10,000 Genin dollars and an overdraft limit of 50,000 Genin dollars. This card is specially infused with the power of a spirit beast to control the amount, so it can be used in any large trading house. Please accept it, master. Lin Muyu accepted the card, but her heart was as clear as a mirror. She smiled and said, I'm afraid a mere transaction of 20,000 gold coins is not enough to get this card, right? Jean shouting burst into laughter and said with a smile, Master is indeed smart. Actually, only a transaction of 500,000 gold coins can get a diamond card, but Master is a little special. Why am I special? Because you are the only person who can refine dream of the extreme. You are the only one in the world of alchemy. As she spoke, Jean Xiaotang bowed again and said with a smile, Master Lin Ji, if you can refine dream of the extreme, please put it up for auction in our trading house first. Xiaotang guarantees that you will not suffer a loss. I see. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and said, All right, I will. Thank you, Miss Xiaotang. You're welcome. I'll be leaving then. Goodbye. Jean Xiaotang spurred her horse and left. Lin Muyu held the heavy 22 diamond coins in her hand, and all sorts of feelings welled up in her heart. The feeling of being rich. But on second thought, he thought of the pitiful little bean sprout. As a copper star sparring master, was his life only worth 500 gold yen coins? Wouldn't the 22 diamond coins in her hand be enough to buy the lives of 44 little bean sprout? Slightly sad, she took the money and went straight to the Wanxing weapon shop. When he arrived at the weapon shop, the shop assistant actually recognized him and said with a face full of smiles, Young hero, you are here. Our shopkeeper was right, young hero will definitely come again. How did Senior Sword Elder know that I would come again? First, young hero is a person who loves swords. Second, young hero is a person who uses swords. Young hero, please follow me, the shopkeeper is in the backyard. Thank you. When she saw the Sword Elder again, the old man was still hale and hearty. He stood alone in the backyard with his hands open, and a formless energy surged around him. It was this energy that gave him the ability to control swords. Senior. Lin Muyu bowed. As a member of the Holy Temple, it seemed that other forms of etiquette were not appropriate. The Sword Elder slowly turned around, and with a radiant face, he said with a smile, Young hero, we meet again. Last time you came to broaden your horizons, I wonder what you are here for this time? I want to learn from Senior the art of controlling swords with qi, Lin Muyu said respectfully. Learn swordsmanship? The Sword Elder could not help but smile and said, This old man has not taught for many years. Young hero, please go back. Lin Muyu was unmoved and said, There must be a reason for not teaching. This junior would like to hear the details. The Sword Elder felt a sense of novelty and said with a smile, All right then. As he said this, the Sword Elder put his hands behind his back, and sword energy surged around his body. His green robe slightly swayed, and he smiled. This old man is not willing to accept disciples for 3 reasons. First, I do not accept ordinary people as my disciples. Second, I do not accept people who are competitive. And third, I do not accept people who are not proficient in swordsmanship. Young hero, as long as you can break my 3 restrictions, I can consider accepting you as my disciple. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. This was really a strange old man, and the threshold for accepting disciples was quite high. After thinking for a while, he said, First, this junior does not think that I am an ordinary person. What do you mean? The so-called natural talent must be useful. Even if one is mediocre in life, they should be able to accomplish something. Not to mention, with my talent, I will inevitably have a magnificent achievement. If I were an ordinary person, I would not have come to ask the Sword Elder to teach me. What a good natural talent must be useful. The Sword Elder nodded in appreciation and said, You have passed the first point, and the second point, how do you prove that you are not a competitive person? Lin Muyu took a deep breath. The reason I want to become strong is because I do not want to see the many injustices in this world. I want to become strong because I want to change this world. Change this world? The sword elder could not help but laugh. Do you have the ability? Boy, I can try and exhaust my strength. Lin Muyu clenched her fist. Her eyes were firm and clear. Good. The sword elder laughed. This second point is considered as you have passed, but the third point, are you a person who is proficient in swordsmanship? This, Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. This junior has only learned some superficial swordsmanship. Show me. Yes. Chapter 69. A set of Imperial Wind Sword technique flowed down smoothly. When Lin Muyu sheathed her sword, the sword elder could be seen clapping his hands as he laughed. This third-rate sword technique seems to be useless. Lin Muyu was very embarrassed. Senior, I got this sword technique from a merchant. Got it? No wonder it's so crude. The sword elder's evaluation was merciless. Young hero, don't you have any other sword techniques? There's one more. Lin Muyu shouted. Her Zhen Qi surged up her arm and turned into a lightning bolt that flowed into the blade of her sword. She struck with the force of a thunderbolt. Cut. The lightning bolt cut through the air, leaving a beautiful trail in the air. It was the lightning strike. This time, the sword elder was a little surprised. He opened his eyes and laughed. This is a little interesting, but it's only one move. It's not a sword technique, and it's only a second-rate sword technique. Lin Muyu was a little unhappy. Senior, this is the sword technique that Senior Fire Cauldron Chu Chu taught me. Oh, Fire Cauldron Chu Chu's sword technique? The sword elder laughed and tears almost came out. This old man actually knows sword techniques? I only knew that Fire Cauldron Chu Chu's fist and palm techniques were the best in the world, but this old man actually knows sword techniques? Ha, no wonder he's so second-rate. Senior knows Grandpa Chu Chu. I don't know him. The sword elder stopped smiling and said, Young hero, you meet the first and second conditions, but I'm sorry, you don't meet the third condition. You don't even know the swordsmanship, so you should go back and practice. When you have some achievements in the future, you can come back to this old man to compare skills. How about it? Lin Muyu was a little unhappy. If I had already mastered sword techniques, then I wouldn't need to come here and be rejected by Senior. The sword elder couldn't help but laugh. Young hero is a very honest person. How about this? Young hero's foundation is not bad, but if you want to learn this old man's imperial sword technique, there is a condition. What condition? Bring me a godly weapon that I like. Lin Muyu was dazed. Does my Burning Prairie sword count? The Burning Prairie sword can only be regarded as a third-grade spirit-grade weapon. It can't be said to be a divine weapon. Young hero, you must bring at least a mysterious grade weapon that has been refined. What do you think? Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu nodded and said, Then, if I melt the Burning Prairie sword again, it will probably count, right? Reforging the Burning Prairie sword? The sword elder could not help but be dumbfounded. Could it be that you are also a blacksmith? I guess so. That's even better. If you really have the ability to reforge a mysterious grade weapon, I'll willingly teach you the sword control technique. How about it? This sword elder was indeed a person who was obsessed with swords. Lin Muyu said happily, Then wait for my good news, Senior. After returning to the temple, his secret room was rearranged. The stone bed was changed, and he could move in again. Although someone had died in this secret room, Lin Muyu did not care anymore. In this chaotic world, what was the death of a person? What? He took out the crafting cauldron. The huge cauldron occupied a few meters of space in front of him, and it let out a buzzing sound of energy. The cauldron was an energy body, not a real crafting furnace, but Lin Muyu believed that no crafting furnace in this world was as precious as the crafting cauldron. Holding the Burning Prairie sword in his hand, he spun the Burning Prairie sword in the crafting cauldron. Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes, feeling the aura and beast soul of the Burning Prairie sword. The so-called crafting was a process of refining and refining, but first, he must be able to feel the structure and organization of the crafting object. This process lasted for about 10 minutes, and the burning prairie sword had already begun to be peeled off and analyzed in front of his eyes. There were still some impurities in the body of the sword, especially at the edge of the blade, which greatly affected the sharpness of the blade. No wonder it was only a spirit-grade weapon. There were a few factors that affected the grade of a weapon. The first was the raw material. Ordinary iron was destined to be unable to compare with fine iron, dark steel, and the like. It was even more incomparable to some precious godly metals. The second factor was the purity. The more impurities there were, the harder and more tensile the weapon would be. The third factor was the refined spirit. The stronger the refined beast spirit in the weapon, the stronger the weapon would be. Whoosh! With a soft sound, the female elf officer, Lulu, flew out of Lin Muyu's body. She was a supporting elf, and in this world, she was actually more like a guiding light for Lin Muyu. Without Lulu's help, he might not even know how to release the crafting cauldron. Big brother! Lulu flapped her wings and said with a smile, the basic material of this burning prairie sword is dark iron, which is a very good material. However, there are a lot of impurities, and the beast soul is not strong enough. Big brother can refine the excess impurities, but I can only upgrade the burning prairie sword to a spirit-grade weapon at most. If you want to upgrade it to the mysterious grade, you will need to change to a more powerful beast soul. Lin Muyu nodded. Then what do I need? You will need about 2 to 3 kilograms of dark iron and a spirit stone from a spirit beast. It must be at least a fire-type spirit stone that is more than 5,000 years old, or it will not be able to upgrade to the mysterious grade. Is that so? I got it. He was not in a hurry to refine it. If a worker wanted to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. He needed to prepare enough materials first. As for crafting, this was his old profession, so it was definitely not a problem. He went out and went straight to the Imperial Chamber of Commerce. These things had to be bought from the auction house. At this time, it was too late to go out of the city to look for spirit beasts in the dragon forest. Moreover, he most likely could not defeat spirit beasts that were more than 5,000 years old. Instead of wasting time, he might as well use the 22 diamond coins in his pocket to do something else. In the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, when Lin Muyu took out the diamond card, the shopkeeper immediately welcomed him with a smile. A distinguished guest is here. How may I help you? I want to see Miss Jean Xiaotang. Oh, I will go and call Miss Jean right away. Please wait for a moment. Thank you. A few minutes later, Jean Xiaong, who was dressed in green, walked out of the back hall gracefully and said with a smile, Lin Ji, I did not expect that we would meet again so soon. Welcome to our Chamber of Commerce. How may I help you? I want to buy some materials. Oh, what do you need? Let's talk as we walk. The two walked side by side on the small path of the Chamber of Commerce. People were coming and going all around them. Lin Muyu said, I want 3 kilograms of dark steel. Jean Shouting blinked her eyes and said with a smile, It seems that Great Master wants to forge weapons? Yes. Then Xiaotang will choose some highly purified dark steel for Great Master. No need, I can purify it myself. Lin Muyu calculated carefully. The higher purity dark steel in the Chamber of Commerce would definitely be expensive. After all, this was a place where people would eat people without spitting out their bones. Jean Xiaotang was a little surprised. All right then, if Great Master does not mind the process of refining dark steel too complicated, what else do you need? Spirit stones. Oh, what kind of spirit stones do you need? Jean Xiaoing turned around with her hands behind her back and said with an exuberant smile, Our Imperial Chamber of Commerce may not have much else, but we have all kinds of spirit stones. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, I need a spirit stone from a fire-type spirit beast that is more than 5,000 years old. Do you have it? More than 5,000 years old? Jean Xiaotang was startled. To be honest, spirit stones that are more than 3,000 years old are already very rare. As for 5,000 years old, let's go take a look, maybe we can find it? The two followed this path to the end and arrived at the spirit stone shop. Spirit stones were the crystallization of the spirit of wild beasts, also known as beast cores or beast cores. The chances of obtaining beast cores after killing spirit beasts were not very high, so spirit stones that were thousands of years old were very rare. Eldest Miss, a shopkeeper said respectfully. Jean Xiaotang nodded and asked, Shopkeeper Zhou, do you have fire-type spirit stones that are more than 5,000 years old? 5,000 years old? The shopkeeper was also startled, then looked at Lin Muyu beside Jean Xiaotang and said with a smile, Yes, we do, but it is not very cheap. We have a 9,000-year-old fire dragon spirit stone that has been the treasure of our shop for half a year. I wonder if young hero is willing to buy it? 9,000 years old? Lin Muyu was startled and said with a smile, It must be very expensive, right? It's all right. How much? 19,000 Jin coins will do. Good lord. Lin Muyu was stunned. She only had 22,000 Jin coins in total. This was the same as before the revolution. Jean Xiaotang seemed to read Lin Muyu's mind and said with a smile, Lin Ji, have you forgotten that you are a diamond VIP of the Chamber of Commerce and can enjoy a 30% discount? That will be more than 13,000 Jin coins. I will help you round off the odd numbers and make it 13,000 Jin coins. How about it? Do you want? Lin Muyu thought about it and nodded. All right, 13,000 it is. He took out 13 diamond coins and felt his heart ache. He could not buy the forbidden medicine's 7-colored lotus in the near future. Even if he was a member of the Holy Temple, he was actually overtaxed. If he bought it too often, it would not be good for him to be invited to the Minister of War's residence for tea. Therefore, he did not know when he would be able to refine the Peak of Dreams again. Soon, the shopkeeper handed over a plump fire flood dragon spirit stone to him. As he held it in his hand, it was boiling hot. After that, he bought one. 5 kilograms of dark iron. Although dark iron was rare, it was not that rare. Therefore, he only sold it for 10 Jin coins per kilogram. After some thought, he bought another 50 kilograms in one go and brought it back as a test subject. Because he had not forged weapons in this world, he needed some experience. He did not want to damage the burning prairie sword on his first try. He bought a few more spirit stones. They were all the hundreds of years old ones. They were cheap and practical. His longing for the art of weapon forging was like a young girl's yearning for love. By the time he returned to the Holy Temple, it was already dark. He hastily ate something and hid in a secret room to start forging weapons in secret. Chapter 70. Grandpa Lei Hong, don't peek. A rustling sound came from outside the stone door. Lin Muyu didn't need to look to know that Lei Hong was guarding her. Lei Hong laughed without blushing. You bought so much dark steel. Are you going to forge a weapon? It's a pity that you don't even have a furnace. Do you want me to get someone to bring one back for you? No need, just don't peek. All right, then focus on your cultivation. The footsteps faded away. Lei Hong had gone far away. Lin Muyu put down the dark steel and took out the artifact forging cauldron with one hand. The cauldron was surrounded by golden oracle bone inscriptions. This cauldron itself had been cultivated to the highest level. In this world, it was simply a treasure. She weighed the dark steel. The Empire's weapons were generally very heavy. Swords usually weighed between 10 to 20 kilograms. In the words of Zhang Wei and the others, weapons are not heavy, so it doesn't hurt to cut people. Presumably, with Zhang Wei's character, if he were to go to the modern world, he would probably carry a watermelon knife and cut people everywhere. She chose a piece of dark steel that weighed about 20 kilograms. With a casual toss, the dark steel floated in the artifact forging cauldron. After removing the impurities, there should be 15 kilograms left. A sword should be about 15 kilograms. After all, it wasn't some spear or saber with a long handle. Any one of them could be frighteningly heavy over 100 kilograms. She spat out her innate chi, and the flames in the artifact forging cauldron began to quickly melt the dark steel. The temperature was extremely high, and the speed of smelting was also very fast. In less than 5 minutes, the dark steel had been melted into a pile of fiery red liquid. The liquid flowed slowly in the artifact forging cauldron, controlled by an invisible force. Of course, the source of this force was Lin Muyu. Innate qi surged, and specks of starlight floated up from the liquid. Those were the parts that were produced by the intense burning of the impurities in the liquid. After smelting for about 10 minutes, the dark steel's purity had reached at least 99.5%. This was already very difficult. Lin Muyu had carefully looked at the excellent weapons in the weapon shop. In fact, the dark steel's purity was less than 90%. Now that the smelting process was complete, it was time for the spirit stones. Lin Muyu took out a spirit stone. It was a 700-year-old bluestone beast spirit stone. With a wave of her hand, the spirit stone fell into the core of the cauldron and was immediately engulfed by the raging flames. The process of refining spirit stones was very simple. The stronger one's strength, the faster the refining speed. Lin Muyu's strength was already very strong. It was at least far above that of a 700-year-old spirit beast. But at the moment when the spirit stone was completely melted, there was a sudden roar, and a green beast rushed out from the cauldron. It raised its sharp claws and pounced on Lin Muyu. Ha! He was stunned and hurriedly summoned his martial spirit. The moment the black tortoise shell appeared, the fierce beast's sharp claws surged on the black tortoise shell. His chest was slightly hot, but he wasn't injured. Lin Muyu let out a low shout, and true energy came out of her body, directly blasting the fierce beast's spirit into the crafting treasure cauldron. Roar, roar. Although the bluestone beast was roaring, its voice was getting smaller and smaller, and in the blink of an eye, it was annihilated in a pile of molten iron. The beast's spirit was officially refined. Lin Muyu's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and his heart was filled with lingering fear. He didn't think that the refining process would be so dangerous. The beast's spirit inside the spirit stone would actually counterattack the refiner. It was truly terrifying. At this time, he couldn't help but worry about the next step of weapon forging. If that 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon beast's spirit counterattacked, how would he be able to withstand it? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh. No wonder it was so difficult for the divine blacksmiths in this world to forge high-grade weapons. It turned out that there were so many requirements. Not only was there a requirement for blacksmiths, there was also a requirement for strength. It could be imagined that many divine blacksmiths had lost their lives to the beast's spirit counterattack. "Big brother, what kind of sword do you need?" Lulu asked with a smile. She was now Lin Muyu's weapon forging assistant. The artifact refining cauldron quickly transformed into hundreds of sword shapes. These were all custom-made plans by Lulu. Lin Muyu casually glanced at them and chose a standard shape. Then the artifact refining cauldron's power surged, and an invisible force condensed into the shape of a sword. The molten iron along with the beast spirit slowly flowed into this invisible sword shape. Lin Muyu slowly released his true qi, and the artifact refining cauldron instantly cooled down. Puchi. The standard shape of the long sword fell into the pool at the side, stirring up streams of steam. After nearly half a minute, Lin Muyu reached out and took the long sword out. Holding it in her hand, she only felt that the sword light was cold. She smiled and said, "I still don't know how to distinguish the grade of a weapon." "Lu, do you know how?" The little elf puffed out her small chest and said with confidence, "Big brother, this is a 7th grade spirit grade weapon. Your first work is of the spirit grade. Not bad." "And that's good." Lin Muyu smiled with satisfaction. It seemed that as long as she cultivated hard, it wasn't impossible to become a generation of divine blacksmiths in this world. Even if she couldn't complete a divine weapon like Star, at least a mysterious grade weapon would be at her fingertips. She continued to forge 4 more swords. Among them, 3 were 7th grade spirit grade, and 1 was 6th grade spirit grade. After all, the materials weren't good enough, but it was still not bad. These black iron were all legendary 100-year black iron. They couldn't be considered precious and could only be forged at this level. Finally, it was time to reforge the Burning Prairie sword. She carefully placed the Burning Prairie sword into the crafting cauldron. However, the Burning Prairie sword was already a treasured sword, and it took a lot of effort to reforge it. After half an hour, the sword was finally melted. When the entire sword turned into a pile of molten iron, a low roar sounded, and as expected, the beast's soul in the burning prairie sword appeared. Lin Muyu was prepared and smashed it with a heavy demonic sound fist. This way, the burning prairie sword became a weapon without a soul. But it didn't matter, the fire dragon spirit stone was already prepared. Closing her eyes, she carefully exhaled into the crafting cauldron to refine the impurities in the iron. Bits of fiery red starlight rose slowly and floated around the whole crafting cauldron before falling to the ground. After adding in new black iron, Lin Muyu started to refine the cauldron. About an hour later, the fiery red molten iron condensed into a stream and flowed like a red ribbon in the cauldron. All the impurities had been removed and the purity was definitely above 99.8%. This was the best that Lin Muyu could achieve with her current cultivation. She took a deep breath and took out the fire dragon spirit stone. The real dangerous adventure had just begun. The fiery flood dragon spirit stone was abnormally stubborn. Just the refinement itself took nearly 2 hours. Just as the surface of the spirit stone was peeled off and melted, Lin Muyu, who was standing in the cauldron, quickly summoned her martial spirit. Dragon scale wall and mystic tortoise shell were also activated. Roar! As expected, it still came. A fire dragon beast spirit pounced out from the spirit stone and opened its bloody mouth, directly smashing into the mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall. Lin Muyu let out a low roar and waved her fists wildly. She even took out a freshly forged weapon and slashed at the beast spirit's strength. For a moment, strong winds blew in the crafting cauldron, and the roars of the beast spirit were endless. After nearly half a minute of battle, the fire dragon beast spirit was slowly refined. Lin Muyu stood in the crafting cauldron, gasping for breath. There was a burning wound on her chest. The fire dragon beast spirit was truly not for show. Even inside the crafting cauldron, it was still able to launch such a fierce counterattack. It was too terrifying. However, Lin Muyu was still very glad that she had survived. In this case, the grade of this sword would definitely not be too low. The fire dragon beast spirit sank into the molten iron, and there was a faint hissing sound. Lin Muyu circulated her true qi and continued to refine the sword. Furthermore, she chose a dignified long sword from the sword model that Lulu had given her as the mold. The molten iron slowly flowed into the mold. The entire process of remolding the sword only took a few minutes. When the crafting cauldron dissipated, a fiery red long sword floated in the air. Lin Muyu pushed with her palm, and a strong gust of wind sent the long sword into the pool. Pooh! Intense steam rose up, evaporating more than half of the water in the pool. When she carefully fished the burning prairie sword out from the bottom of the pool, she had actually forgotten to carve a name for it. With no other choice, she raised her finger and spat out the true dragon yuan fire. Just like that, she used her finger to write the 2 words, burning prairie, on the blade of the sword. The characters were vigorous and forceful, and it was written in the style of Wang Shi. Lin Muyu had been learning calligraphy from her father since she was young, and her calligraphy skills were absolutely outstanding among her peers. Now, she could finally put it to good use. Big brother, congratulations, this is a 5th-tier profound grade sword. Lulu clapped her hands and said with a smile. Lin Muyu was also very gratified. The new burning prairie sword was a little heavier than the original, and the scabbard was also not suitable for use. Hugging the burning prairie sword, he leaned against the headboard and closed his eyes to fall asleep. The fatigue of weapon forging cultivation far exceeded that of refining medicine. After continuously forging a few long swords, he already felt as if the true qi in his body had been sucked dry. When he woke up, it was already the morning of the next day. Dong dong, there was a knock on the door. Lin Ji, wake up. It was Deacon Guyang's voice. Lin Muyu turned over and got up. After a night's sleep, her strength was full again. She hurriedly went to open the door and said with a smile, Grandpa Guyang, isn't it my vacation now? What's the matter? Guyang squinted his eyes and said with a smile, Yes, the great deacon is looking for you. Take your work from last night and go to the Saint Hall. Okay. Although he did not know what it was, Lei Hong would not harm him. After washing up a little, he carried the 6 swords and followed Guyang to the Saint Hall. Early in the morning, the instructors and sparring masters had already finished eating and started cultivating. The Saint Hall was very quiet. "Ayu," Lei Hong said in a heartfelt manner. But in Lin Muyu's eyes, his expression was no different from that of a request. She smiled and said, "Grandpa Lei Hong, if you have something to say, just say it." "Okay." Lei Hong smiled embarrassedly. "Actually, grandfather has been guarding your cultivation last night and saw that you forged some very good weapons, so—" Cough cough. "Next, Deacon Guyang, you tell him." Guyang had a helpless look on his face. What the great deacon means is, although the Saint Hall has received financial support from the Empire, the weapons in our arsenal are actually third-rate goods. You have seen for yourself, the weapons of the instructors are often broken and damaged. In fact, they are all ordinary, superior weapons. There are no spirit-grade weapons at all. So after seeing that you can forge spirit-grade weapons, the great deacon is very pleased. Lin Muyu already saw through it and said with a smile, "So the 2 grandpas want to use the name of the Saint Hall to buy the swords I forged, right?" Guyang rubbed his hands and looked like a profiteer. "But we are a family, you have to give us an insider price, Lin Muyu." Chapter 71. All right then, I owe the Holy Temple a debt of gratitude. I must repay them. Lin Muyu put down the weapons in her arms and said, "These are all spirit-grade weapons. How much should they be worth on the market?" Gu Yang's gaze swept across the distance and said, "Instructor Liu, you used to be a supervisor in the Imperial Weapons Department. Why don't you appraise the grade of these weapons?" Instructor Liu was a bearded man. He stepped forward and picked up a sword. With a clang sound, he unsheathed the sword and flicked his finger on the blade. His eyes shone brightly as he said with a smile, "Good sword. This is a 7th-stage spirit-grade dark iron sword. Its market price is about 7001200 Jin coins. It's a treasure that many noble childs are eager to get." Lin Muyu turned to Lei Hong and smiled, "Then sell them to the Holy Temple at half price. These swords will be sold for 500 Jin dollars each. Grandpa Lei Hong, what do you think?" Lei Hong nodded happily. "Yes, Deacon Guyang, allocate 2,500 Jin dollars from the Holy Temple to Lin Ji. Remember to place these swords on the top floor of the weapons pavilion. Only Silver Star and Gold Star instructors can use these weapons." Guyang cupped his fists. "Yes, great deacon." Lin Muyu left the Holy Temple after receiving the money. She bought a new scabbard and went straight to the Wanxing weapon shop. Her heart was filled with joy. She had fulfilled her promise with the Sword Elder and reforged the Burning Prairie sword into a 5th-grade mysterious grade demigod weapon. Now the Sword Elder should be teaching her superior sword techniques as promised, right? Early in the morning, the Wanxing weapon shop had just opened for business. When Lin Muyu stepped into the shop, she saw the Sword Elder standing on top of a branch in the distance. He was wearing a white robe and had the demeanor of an immortal. His feet were stepping on the tender leaves of a branch, and a long sword was slowly flying around his body. He was absorbing the spiritual energy in the morning light, and his breathing had the demeanor of a grandmaster. Only the heavens knew who this Sword Elder was, but at least Lin Muyu was almost certain that this Sword Elder's cultivation was definitely not below Lei Hong or Chu Chu's. Perhaps in the entire empire, he was also one of the strongest. It was just that he lived in seclusion and no one cared about him. Lin Muyu did not rush forward to interrupt. Instead, she held the Burning Prairie sword and silently stood on the stone path, watching the Sword Elder cultivate. After more than an hour, the sun was already high up in the sky. The spiritual energy in the morning light had also gradually dissipated. The Sword Elder finally slowly opened his eyes and looked at the youngster who was not far away. He smiled and said, "Young hero, have you fulfilled your promise?" "Yes." Lin Muyu leaped forward with the prairie fire sword in her hand. She knelt down on one knee and presented the treasured sword, saying, "Shifu, please accept it." The Sword Elder could not help but smile. He reached out to hold the burning prairie sword and pulled it out with a keng sound. Suddenly, he felt the flame on the blade surging and the faint sound of a fire flood dragon could be heard. Moreover, the sword's arc was simple and beautiful. It had the charm of a master's work. His finger lightly swung the blade and felt the sharp force. He could not help but smile and said, "5th level mysterious rank. It really is a good sword. Did you use a 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon beast spirit?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "Shifu, you even know this?" The sword elder laughed. "If I could not even know this, how could I be your Shifu?" "Ha, that's true. Get up, I will accept you as my disciple." "Thank you, Shifu." Lin Muyu stood up, her face filled with endless joy. The sword elder looked at this new disciple and muttered, "The way of the sword is vast and boundless. If you want to learn the true imperial sword technique, you must cultivate a sword heart. Without a sword heart, you will not be able to communicate with the sword. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu was confused. "I don't really understand." The sword elder smiled. "It's no wonder. Your previous attainments in swordsmanship were not even superficial. To put it bluntly, the average imperial sword technique in Jianghu uses qi to control the sword. Using qi to control the sword's flight, but our sex practice is to use the heart to control the sword. To put it simply, it is to communicate with the sword spirit within the blade, and become one with the sword. Therefore, even if the blade leaves your hand, it will change according to your will. Is there a difference between using qi to control the sword and using the heart to control the sword?" Lin Muyu asked with an awkward smile. The sword elder could not help but laugh. He did not answer, but instead asked, "When facing a battle, is your mind faster or your qi faster?" Lin Muyu instantly understood. "I understand, Shifu. Using the heart to control the sword is the best in the imperial sword technique." The sword elder lightly stroked his white beard. His expression carried a trace of arrogance as he said, "That's right. When you master using the heart to control the sword, you will find that using qi to control the sword is extremely clumsy." "And, thank you, Shifu. When do we start?" "Haven't we already started?" "I'll forgive this disciple for being slow-witted." "That's right." The sword elder suddenly interrupted. "What's wrong, Shifu?" The sword elder coughed and smiled. "You can follow me to learn the imperial sword technique, but you won't be learning it for free. Before you learn it, you need to buy a mysterious grade sword and 2 spirit grade swords from my Wanxing weapon shop. Is that okay?" Lin Muyu immediately cupped his hands and said, "Of course." "And then let's start." The first step, you must first understand the heart of the sword. The sword was originally just an ordinary iron, but because of the sword's owner, it has a spirit. The sword follows your heart. There is no sword in your hand, but there is a sword in your heart. The sword elder talked about the Heart Sutra of the Sword Tao and let Lin Muyu memorize it first. Then, he taught her a set of true qi. After a series of teachings, he flicked his sleeves and said, "I'm going to meditate in the inner room. You will cultivate in this courtyard. Within 3 days, you must comprehend the heart of the sword. Otherwise, you won't be qualified to continue learning the heart of the sword." Lin Muyu nodded, not really understanding. She turned around and sat on the stone steps in the courtyard. Then, she quietly entered into the comprehension of the Heart Sutra of the Sword Tao. The sword elder turned around and flew into the inner room. He sat there quietly. The housekeeper beside him was already more than 60 years old. He was holding an incense tripod and whispered, "Sword elder, isn't it too difficult for this child to comprehend the heart of the sword in 3 days? You should know that even with your perception, it took you 5 days and 5 nights to comprehend the heart of the sword." The sword elder faintly smiled. "Everything is fate. I am used to living like a wild crane. I don't want to accept disciples. This child has some perception. Whether or not he can learn the heart of the sword depends on his fate. You only need to send him 3 meals." He sat there for 2 days. During these 2 days, Lin Muyu only ate 3 meals. However, he didn't feel very hungry. The sword elder said, "The sword is an ordinary iron. It is because of the sword wielder that it has a spirit." This sentence alone made Lin Muyu ponder for a full 2 days and 2 nights. What did it mean to have a sword in one's heart? The burning prairie sword was spread out on both of his legs. He quietly comprehended the sword intent. The late autumn night was cold. Waves of cold wind brushed past his face. He closed his eyes and didn't say anything. His whole body slowly rose up with blue Zhenqi. It transformed into the shape of a sword and then seeped into his body. This made the housekeeper dumbfounded. Gradually, although Lin Muyu's eyes were closed, he could see the chaotic void in his EC slowly condense into a fiery red long sword. It was the virtual image of the burning prairie sword. What? He was dumbfounded. Why was the burning prairie sword able to enter his EC? Was this what the sword elder meant by having a sword in one's heart? Buzz, buzz, buzz. The burning prairie sword on his legs let out a low whistling sound. Lin Muyu suddenly stood up. When he once again held the burning prairie sword, he suddenly felt a spiritual connection coming from the sword hilt. Creak. The door to the back of the room opened. The sword elder stepped out with a smile of approval on his face. Lin Muyu, you really didn't let me down. You actually comprehended the heart of the sword in 2 days and 2 nights. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. I comprehended the heart of the sword? Master, how do you know my real name? I don't even know who you are. How could I dare to accept you as a disciple? The sword elder laughed. The next practice is to communicate with the spirit. Send your consciousness into the sword and communicate with the spirit of the sword. However, you must be careful. This practice process will have some dangers. If you are not careful, your consciousness may be swallowed by the spirit of the sword. After all, the spirit of the sword is a ferocious spirit beast. To truly tame it is not that easy. Yes, I know. The sword elder turned around and went back to his room. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword and sat down again. She closed her eyes and slowly extended her consciousness into the burning prairie sword. The inside of the sword was like another chaotic world. It was empty and dark. Lin Muyu's consciousness turned into a physical form. She looked at the surrounding darkness with amazement and slowly flew. Roar. Suddenly, a fiery red evil beast appeared in front of her. It flew and circled in the air. It opened its bloody mouth and attacked fiercely. It was the spirit beast inside the sword, Fire Flood Dragon. Ah! Lin Muyu hurriedly opened her arms and used her arms to force open the jaws of the fiery W. However, the strength of the fiery WM was too strong and it continued to bite down fiercely. Poochie! Lin Muyu's right arm was bitten off amidst the intense pain. The fiery WM chewed on this delicious meal with all its might and swallowed it whole. It roared continuously and opened its claws for another attack. Poochie! Lin Muyu's consciousness body was broken in the blink of an eye. Her body turned into starlight and slowly dissipated. The fire flood dragon roared again and again. It opened its mouth and bit off his other arm. Beast! Lin Muyu roared. An indescribable anger gushed out from the bottom of her heart. In the next moment, a golden light bloomed in the darkness. A golden true dragon covered in flames emerged from his body. The long dragon's body circled around Lin Muyu. The dragon's head looked at the fire flood dragon. It suddenly opened its mouth and let out a dragon roar. Poochie! It bit the head of the fire flood dragon and began to tear it apart. Pa! The huge dragon's claws crossed and firmly grasped the neck of the fire flood dragon. The dragon opened its mouth and flames expanded. It looked like it was about to swallow the fire flood dragon. Ao ao! The fire flood dragon unexpectedly let out a cry. It lowered its proud head and whimpered as if it was crying. It was actually begging for mercy? In front of a true dragon, how could a mere fire flood dragon be so rampant? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Her strength slowly dispersed and the image of the true dragon that lingered around her slowly disappeared. As for the fire flood dragon, it crawled at Lin Muyu's feet, as if it had pledged its loyalty. Humph, that's more like it, he chuckled and slowly withdrew his consciousness. He opened his eyes and looked down. He could feel a burst of joy coming from the burning prairie sword. Sure enough, the sword heart could communicate with the sword soul. So it really was this amazing. Chapter 72. Master, I did it. Lin Muyu jumped up in ecstasy. The sword elder walked out of the room and laughed. Good, your talent is indeed rare. Master, what should I learn next? Are you going to teach me a set of imperial sword technique? Lin Muyu asked, full of hope. Sword technique? The sword elder couldn't help but laugh. He twirled his beard and said, You, using your heart to control the sword doesn't have any sword technique. As long as you can defeat your opponent, any move is your sword technique. Even I don't have any sword techniques. The only thing I can teach you is a few scattered moves. Master, please tell me. Watch carefully. The sword elder gently raised his palm. Not far from the sword rack, a Qingfeng sword suddenly came out of its sheath. As if it had a mind of its own, it lightly hummed in the air. Following the sword elder's movements, it slowly turned into a stream of air. In the blink of an eye, the stream of air around it formed an invisible blade. With the Qingfeng sword as the core, the Qingfeng sword quickly bombarded the blue stone in front of him. With a loud sound, the blue stone turned into powder. Lin Muyu was stunned. The blue stone was at least 1 meter thick, but the Qingfeng sword was just an ordinary sword. The power of this imperial sword technique was truly amazing. The sword elder faintly smiled. The imperial sword technique that I practice is divided into 2 methods. One is to gather, just like the attack in front of you, concentrating the power at one point to defeat the opponent. The other is to disperse, spreading the power out to form an entire attack, making it impossible for the opponent to hide. Although the imperial sword technique is ever-changing, the same principle is to gather and disperse. As he said this, the sword elder gently raised his arm. The Qingfeng sword turned into a shadow and flew into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into countless blades that fell from the sky. Only one of them was a real sword. The rest were invisible blades formed by the sword elder's Do Qi. However, they were still extremely powerful. In the blink of an eye, the blue stone tiles in the courtyard were filled with holes. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck and said, How am I supposed to study? The sword elder laughed. First, learn to gather. Don't use your hands to hold the sword. Use your sword to break a stone slab. That's the first step. Yes, master. The burning prairie sword was placed in the distance. Lin Muyu slowly opened her hand and sensed the sword's soul in the blade. The soul of the fire flood dragon was also quickly shining and echoing. Its emotions were intense, but the burning prairie sword only trembled a little. Surprisingly, there was not much movement. Concentrate. The sword elder said from the side, You must be completely focused in order to reach the highest realm of flying swords. Yes, master. Lin Muyu continued to try and quickly calmed her mind. Her index and middle fingers were pressed together like a sword, and her mind and the fire flood dragon sword's soul resonated with each other. The fire flood dragon sword's soul even seemed to be somewhat happy. Rise. He let out a low grunt, and this time, the burning prairie sword let out a humming sound as the blade slowly floated up. Lin Muyu was extremely excited. She controlled the direction of the burning prairie sword's tip and aimed at a blue stone from afar. She suddenly exerted force and said in a low voice, Go! Shua! The long sword quickly flew over and with a pa sound pierced into the stone slab, but did not penetrate it. The sword elder laughed from the side and reminded him, Ayu, your concentration is not enough. Concentrate your thoughts on the sword and combine them with the sword spirit. Only then will you be able to display the greatest power. Your current degree of integration is not even 10%. Continue practicing. Yes, master. After more than 1,000 attempts, Lin Muyu finally opened his palm at daybreak. Using his heart to control his sword, he smashed the top of the bluestone slab into pieces. Moreover, this huge bluestone slab was already riddled with holes. Lin Muyu had spent the night tormenting it. Not bad. The sword elder once again appeared behind this diligent student. He smiled and said, Your imperial sword technique has reached small success. Thank you, master. Don't be too proud. It is only small success. You still have a lot to learn. After saying that, the sword elder muttered to himself, speed and strength are the key to the imperial sword technique. However, this is only the basic imperial sword technique. Next, this old man will teach you an even more brilliant, gather attack method. HM? The sword elder flicked his sleeves and suddenly, a wooden sword that was not far away flew up against the wind. It was aimed directly at another stone slab not far away. The sword elder smiled and said, "You, do you think that this wooden sword can pierce through stone?" Lin Muyu could not help but be speechless. Would piercing through stone, isn't that a bit too much? Really? The sword elder laughed and suddenly shook his arm. Suddenly, the wooden sword whistled and rotated with the sword as the axis. Its speed became faster and faster. Suddenly, it flew out. Stone chips flew in all directions and hit the stone. Sure enough, the stone was pierced through. Damn, Lin Muyu's mouth was wide open. She was extremely shocked. The sword elder smiled slightly. This is the spiral. The power of the spiral can increase the penetrating power. In this world, there are many people who know how to use the imperial sword technique. However, the number of people who know how to use the power of the spiral can be counted on one's fingers. Next, you will learn the spiral. Yes, master. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. Lin Muyu's cultivation speed made even the sword elder sigh. This kid was indeed a genius at learning the sword. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A cyclone wrapped around the burning prairie sword. The fire dragon sword spirit happily cried out. The sword body rotated at a high speed and jumped in the air in a spiral trajectory. With a pung sound, it smashed into a green rock and directly disintegrated it. Not bad. The sword elder gently stroked his beard and smiled with satisfaction. Next, you will use the wooden sword to complete this attack. Lin Muyu wanted to die. How much strength did he need to use the wooden sword to complete this task? However, he did not give up. He quickly picked up a wooden sword. This time, there was no longer the sword spirit. He could only rely on his chi to control the wooden sword. This small wooden sword was suspended in the air. Lin Muyu's arms flew up and down. His chi drove the wooden sword to spin faster and faster. The wooden sword turned into a pile of wood chips. The green rock remained motionless. The sword elder calmly said, "Housekeeper, go and buy another 100 wooden training swords." "No, buy 200. "Yes, sword elder." In the blink of an eye, another 2 days passed. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The wooden sword rotated at a high speed in front of Lin Muyu's chest. Lin Muyu opened his palms. His chi turned into a lightning that was pulled between his palms and the wooden sword. This was what he had comprehended in the past 2 days. Turning his chi into lightning to control the wooden sword. This was the first time the sword elder was stunned. The sword elder had cultivated for a lifetime. He had seen people using chi to control a sword, but he had never seen someone using lightning to control a sword. However, Lin Muyu was able to do this. Pang! A loud sound rang out. The lightning wrapped around the wooden sword penetrated the green rock and directly smashed it into pieces. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. "Teacher, how is it? Is it done?" The sword elder was a little scared. What kind of terrifying person was he cultivating? He secretly thought that he could not teach him any more profound imperial sword techniques. "And it's done." The sword elder stroked his white beard and said, You have already learned the Gathering and Dispersing Heart Sutra. With your current cultivation level, you can be considered to be at the top of the imperial sword technique. I have nothing else to teach you. Go back to the holy temple. You have already stayed here for 7 days. Lin Muyu was surprised. He remembered that Lei Hong gave him 3 days off, but he had already been outside for 7 days. Holding the burning prairie sword, he retreated a few steps and knelt on the ground. He kowtowed and said, "Thank you, teacher, for your guidance. Lin Muyu will always remember it. Teacher, rest assured, I will go back and forge a weapon as soon as possible." The sword elder laughed. "Good child, quickly get up and go back." The sky is getting dark. While he was at it, he bought some dark steel and spirit stones from the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. When he arrived at the Holy Temple, the guard recognized him and greeted him with a smile. Master Lin Ji, you're finally back. And what's the matter? Yes, the day before yesterday and this morning, a female alchemist from the spiritual medicine department came to find you. However, you were not here, so she went back. She told us to tell you to find her when you come back. It must be Chu Yao. Lin Muyu's heart warmed. He smiled and said, "Thank you." What he didn't expect was that Gu Yang and Lei Hong didn't punish him. After all, he was such a good seedling. The two deacons also wanted to nurture him. Especially when they saw the charm in Lin Muyu's eyes, they knew that this kid's strength had increased again. He was now close to level 59 Battle Saint and could step into the first heavenly layer at any time. After putting the black iron and spirit stones in his room, he quickly went to the spiritual medicine department. The spirit medicine department was still filled with the strong smell of medicine. Chu Yao was wearing a snow-white female alchemist uniform, which accentuated her exquisite figure. As soon as she saw Lin Muyu, she rushed forward and grabbed his hand. You've been gone for so many days. What were you doing? I was learning sword arts from an expert. Then your sword arts must have reached a certain level? Chu Yao tilted her head and asked with a smile. Lin Muyu clenched his fist and smiled confidently. It's all right, he was quite modest. Chu Yao giggled and pulled him inside. She said, I have a friend that I want to introduce to you. Sister Chu Yao made a new friend in the spiritual medicine department? What are you talking about? Chu Yao smiled coquettishly. She then took a cage from a pile of herbs. Inside it was a white bird. There was an empty bamboo tube tied to the bird's leg. She hugged the bird and said with a smile, "This is a specially trained messenger bird. It is also the main way for the Empire to deliver the letter. This messenger bird is a spiritual bird. It can track the breath of the bloodline. It is said that it can find people from thousands of miles away. It is only one-on-one. I have already fed it a bit of my blood, and you should also feed it a bit of your blood. This way, even if you are thousands of miles away, I will still be able to find you." So magical? Lin Muyu was amazed. "Give me your hand." Holding on to Lin Muyu's hand, Chu Yao took out a silver needle and pointed it with a smile. But she immediately frowned. Your skin is getting thicker and thicker. Even a needle cannot pierce it. Sister Chu Yao, you are scolding me. I did not say that my skin is thicker. Finally, Chu Yao pricked Lin Muyu's finger with the silver needle and squeezed out a drop of blood for the spiritual bird to drink. The little bird immediately spread its wings and flew back and forth between the two of them. It was very intimate. Chu Yao used her finger to rub the bird's wings and said with a smile, "I will call it Xiao Bai. In the future, it will only belong to the two of us. I will be the one to feed it. When I can't find you, I will let Xiao Bai find you." Good. Suddenly, another person from the Saint Hall entered the medicine concocting hall. It was Zhang Wei, clad in armor and looking extraordinarily mighty. The guards of the medicine department didn't dare to ask any questions, and so they just casually barged into the department. "You're right. Lord Zhang Wei, what is the matter?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Zhang Wei's lips curled up. "Of course it is a good thing. Lord Lin Ji, Princess Tang Xiaoxi is in the Holy Temple. She wants you to return." "Oh, Xiaoxi is here." Lin Muyu smiled and turned to Chu Yao. "The princess must have something to do. Sister, I will go first. I will come back to see you later." Chapter 73. In the southeast corner of Lanyan City's Zetian Palace, there was a small military camp. Soldiers dressed in dark blue imperial military uniforms were training with long spears in their hands. Horses galloped as a group of cavalrymen passed through the camp, holding blood-red patrolling flags in their hands. Other than the shouts of training, there was no sound in the camp. It was a scene of desolation. Military police camp, the place in charge of military law in the entire imperial capital. On the road paved with green and blue bricks, A patrolling duty officer flew in with a letter in his hand. He knelt on one knee and said respectfully, "Commander Darren, a letter from Tsangnan province." 2 rows of military officers stood respectfully on both sides. Behind the main officer's desk, a youth with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes was looking at the map on the paper roll. He was wearing a high-ranking military officer's uniform with 3 golden stars on his collar. That was the military rank of the Imperial Commander. This person was none other than the commander of the Imperial Military Barracks, Xianxia. At a young age, he was able to sit in the commander's position and was in charge of the military law of the entire army. Moreover, his identity was quite deep as he was the descendant of the imperial god of war, Xiang. It was because of this that almost everyone in the imperial army was somewhat afraid of him. Of course, Xiang Yu's most feared part was his bloodbath spear. Xiang Yu's cultivation was inherited from Xiang Wenyan, and he could be said to be the most intelligent and brave general in the imperial army. Another letter from Tsangnan province? Xiang Yu asked with a slight smile. Could it be that Jiujiu still wants me to arrest that Lin Muyu? The duty officer shook his head. This subordinate does not know. Xiang Yu took Yu's letter and scanned through it. He could not help but frown and said, Tsangnan province has mobilized tens of thousands of troops and still could not find him. They also suspect that Lin Muyu has already infiltrated the imperial capital. What does everyone think should be done? A high-ranking officer cupped his fists and said, Commander, why don't we conduct a carpet search in the imperial capital? Xiang Yu waved his hand. Firstly, this is too much of a large force. Once His Majesty is alarmed, we may not be able to bear the consequences. Secondly, even though our military barracks is in charge of the 3 armies, our military strength is after all limited with only 2,000 people. It is impossible to conduct a carpet search. Not only would it be a large force, it would also be futile. Commander, do you have any brilliant moves? The corners of Xiang Yu's mouth curled up, and he said with a smile, Can't say brilliant move. You guys follow me, we're making a trip to the Imperial Army's main camp. Haven't seen Commander Feng Jixing for a long time. I was just thinking of exchanging pointers with him. It just so happens that Feng Jixing's 30,000 Imperial Guards are in charge of this matter. We must capture Lin Muyu as soon as possible. Otherwise, Uncle will keep nagging us. The Deputy General had a smile on his face. Lord Commander is brilliant. This subordinate admires you. Holy Palace. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the buildings of the Holy Palace, casting the statue of the god of war, Xiang Wenyan, on the top of the Holy Palace on the ground. It was extremely long, as though it was about to cover the entire side palace. Lin Muyu passed through the main hall and went straight to the side palace. From afar, she saw Tang Xiaoxi dressed in a fiery red dress. Tang Xiaoxi's martial soul was the fire fox, and her dress was also inclined towards red. As a result, even when she was wearing a snow-white dress, it would be embellished with fiery red-purple flowers as accessories. Moreover, Princess she was not lacking in money. Her dress seemed to change every day, and it was simply the envy of all the noble ladies in the imperial capital. Tang Xiaoxi saw Lin Muyu at a glance. She ran over gracefully with a happy smile on her face. Why you only back now? Lord Zhang has been out for so long. Lin Muyu laughed awkwardly. I had some matters to attend to. Moreover, why didn't you tell me that you were coming? Zhang Wei scratched the back of his head and laughed. Princess, I went to the trading company once, and then to the weapon shop, but I couldn't find Lord Lin Ji. In the end, I only found him in the spiritual medicine department. Tang Xiaoxi laughed lightly. Then I'll have to trouble Lord Zhang Wei. You should quickly go and rest. Leave him to me. Zhang Wei looked at Lin Muyu with an ambiguous smile. He lightly bumped his fist on her chest and laughed. Lord Lin Ji has to take good care of Princess Shi. Don't forget our holy palace's etiquette. Lin Muyu glared at him, then watched as Zhang Wei laughed and left. Xiao Shi, why are you looking for me this time? Lin Muyu asked. Tang Xiaoxi grunted and said, Have you forgotten? There are only 3 days left before the Upper Shi Festival. The Upper Shi Festival is one of the most important festivals in the empire. Didn't we agree to celebrate the Upper Shi festival together? Have you really forgotten? No, I really haven't. Oomph. Tang Xiaoxi had a look of, I'd be a fool if I believed you. She said, anyway, you must go. I have already booked the top floor of the Tingyu Pavilion. I have also invited many good friends. Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing, Imperial Guard Chu Huaying, and Imperial Guard Commander Qin Lei will all be attending. You must go. All right. Lin Muyu agreed. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. Why do you look so unhappy? I knew it. You are worried that the beautiful pharmacist Chu Yao from the spiritual medicine department doesn't have an invitation, right? Don't worry, I have given Chu Huaying 2 invitations. He will pass one to Chu Yao. You only have Sister Chu Yao in your heart, right? Lin Muyu looked at her like a girl fighting for attention and couldn't help but laugh. Xiaoxi, you are a princess. How can you be calculative with Sister Chu Yao? She is just a pharmacist. All right, no matter what, you are in the right. Tang Xiaoxi crossed her arms in front of her chest, squeezing her breasts. She pouted and said, Mu, what have you been busy with these days? It seems that your cultivation has improved again. Let me see the results of your cultivation these days. How about it? Lin Muyu was stunned. Do I really want to see? Yes. All right then. If Xiaoxi wants to see, I will let you see. I have created a few moves that I haven't named yet. Help me think of a name. Yes, I brought some food. I'll watch your demonstration after I eat. Tang Xiaoxi cheered. But Tang Xiaoxi brought some delicacies and a bottle of fresh and elegant wine. After eating a little, Lin Muyu took her to her cultivation room. Tang Xiaoxi's guards followed closely behind. They were all young and strong martial artists between the ages of 20 to 35. They looked at Lin Muyu fiercely as if saying, if you dare to kidnap the princess, we will fight you to the death. When they arrived outside the courtyard, Tang Xiaoxi turned around and said to the guards, okay, I will go in with Mu. You guys wait outside. One of the guards cupped his fists and said, Princess, this doesn't seem very good. Tang Xiaoxi raised her eyebrows. What's not good about it? Will Mu eat me? The bodyguard had a helpless look on his face. He was afraid that this kid would eat this delicacy of his. However, he did not dare to say it out loud. He only said respectfully, yes, we will wait outside. If the princess doesn't come out, we will not leave. Okay. Tang Xiaoxi happily followed Lin Muyu into the courtyard and closed the door behind her. It was a taboo to peek at someone else's cultivation in the empire because it was suspected of stealing someone's skills. Of course, Lei Hong's behavior of peeking at Lin Muyu's cultivation was not counted as such. After all, he was already so old and shameless. The courtyard was very spacious. There were a few rockery and a lotus pond. All right, let me see your results. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't wait any longer. She leaped over and sat on a section of the railing as she said with a smile. Lin Muyu nodded. The heart of the sword flashed in his mind. He raised one hand slightly. Suddenly, the burning prairie sword on his back came out of its sheath with a clang. It hung in the air and let out a faint sword sound. This was the basic ability of using the heart to control the sword. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Her small mouth slightly opened. Sword control technique. What a guy. Lin Muyu laughed. His ability was not limited to the sword control technique. Thinking of this, she suddenly let out a low grunt. True qi surged and turned into lightning that seeped into her palms. The lightning formed countless dazzling chains that connected the burning prairie sword and her palms. Lin Muyu controlled her strength and speed and suddenly launched an attack. Suddenly, the burning prairie sword pierced into the distance with lightning speed. Pang! A stone pillar suddenly split into two. This attack was simple and violent. It was a technique created by Lin Muyu by combining the lightning strike and sword of lightning techniques. Its specialty was its speed and strength. It was able to launch a sudden attack within a second. Most people would not be able to defend themselves in time. Furthermore, he had been practicing this technique in secret. Even the Sword Elder did not know about it. The Sword Elder was worried that this kid would surpass his master. However, he did not know that in some aspects, this kid had already surpassed him. Wow, Tang Xiaoxi opened her small mouth and said, "Moo, is this the move that Grandpa Choo Choo's lightning strike evolved from?" "Yes, it is a fusion of the sword control technique." "Xiaoxi, can you name it?" he said with a smile. "Let's call it Thunderwave?" Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "Yes, good name. It is very appropriate. Is there anything else?" Lin Muyu gently opened one of her palms. A light wind surged in her palm. Between stillness and movement, streams of air lingered around the burning prairie sword. Slowly, it formed a small storm. Lin Muyu muttered to herself. She pushed her palm forward. With the storm and the burning prairie sword as the core, it directly smashed a boulder into pieces. Heavens! Tang Xiaoxi could no longer sit still. She jumped down from the railing. Her face was filled with shock. Such a strong destructive power. Lin Muyu's body was still surrounded by the air. She smiled and said, "After comprehending the heart of the sword, I tried to harmonize with the wind laws in the air. However, I did not expect that the power would be so great. This, I call it the sword control technique. Its power is impressive. However, the disadvantage is that it takes time to accumulate a strong wind force. In a real battle, it is very difficult to make a difference." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and nodded. "Yes, this move should be named Windbreak." Good name. Do you have any other moves?" "Yes, the finale has not been shown yet." Facing the lotus pond, Lin Muyu focused his mind and silently opened his palm. In an instant, countless invisible blades flew out from his body. With his heart of the sword released, even Tang Xiaoxi could see his true chi swords. Rustle, the water in the pool began to tremble violently. In the next moment, the water in the pool seemed to be attracted to something as it slowly rose up and gathered together. Furthermore, the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly and the water arrows actually froze into light blue frost blades. If the Sword Elder's teachings were to be compared to the external release of the Heart Sword, then Lin Muyu's technique was a sublimation of the external release of the Heart Sword. Rise! Raising his arm, thousands of ice swords soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, they landed on the ground not far away. It directly turned the place into a mess of potholes. Chapter 74. Using water to control the sword heart technique scatter word formula. Lin Muyu quickly calmed the surging qi and blood caused by the excessive consumption of true energy, and said with a smile, "Xiaoxi, what do you think of this move? Is it flashy enough?" Tang Xiaoxi was almost petrified. After a while, she blinked her eyes and said, So powerful." These words made Lin Muyu's confidence almost explode. She said with a smile, "Of course. What should I call this move?" Tang Xiaoxi said, "I've seen experts of the Imperial Sword technique use the innumerable sword formula. It's similar, but this move of yours uses the law of water. Why don't we call it Innumerable Sword Absolute Ice?" Good name. Anything else? Tang Xiaoxi asked weakly. "There's still one last move, and it's also the move with the most explosive power." Show it to me." "Alright." Lin Muyu muttered to himself. Immediately, the burning prairie sword flew up with a swoosh and stood vertically in front of him. He opened his palms and wisps of true dragon primary fire condensed between his fingers, slowly transforming into a flaming chain between his palms and the blade of the sword. After activating the rotational force, the burning prairie sword slowly rotated on its axis, while the wisps of true dragon primary fire in his palms spiraled around the blade of the sword like a long dragon. With a dragon's roar, Lin Muyu shouted, "Go!" The long sword whistled through the air, carrying with it a vast spiral of fire. The heat spewed out, and the pond water to the side sizzled. Lin Muyu's target was a huge rock with a diameter of at least 5 meters, and it was an extremely hard black rock. Amidst the loud noise, rocks flew everywhere. Lin Muyu opened his hand, and the wall of the gourd came out of his body, protecting him and Tang Xiaoxi. The impact of this blow swept through the entire courtyard, and the guards outside couldn't help but knock on the door. "Princess, there's such a big commotion inside. Are you all right?" "I'm fine, don't come in," Tang Xiaoxi said loudly. "Yes, Prince." Controlling the sword with fire. Lin Muyu calmed herself down and said faintly, "Flame is the source of power. Together with the piercing effect of the whirlwind, this strike's penetrative power and power are the strongest among all of my moves. Its weakness is the same as Gale Break. The charging time is too long. It's said that the speed at which battle energy is condensed is faster. Maybe when I step into the heaven realm and understand battle energy, I can improve this move. Xiao Shi, what do you think of this move? What's a good name?" Tang Xiaoxi became even more restless. Her face was roasted red by the flames as she said, "I vaguely heard the roar of a dragon just now. Mu, why is there dragon force in this move of yours? Is it a move cultivated from the true dragon bone I gave you last time?" "Yeah, Xiao Shi is so smart." "So that's how it is. Let's call it Dragon Flame Spiral Break. This style looks really good." Lin Muyu stood proudly in the courtyard. The Sword Elder had taught him the heart of the sword and controlling the sword with heart, so he could be considered as his sword art's first teacher. However, the 4 elemental sword control law that he had comprehended in the past few days had surpassed his teacher. Perhaps it could be said that he already had the demeanor of a transcendent master. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, was sullen. "What's wrong, Xiao Shi?" he asked with concern. Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and looked at him with a pair of starry eyes. She said, "When we were in Cathaya City, you were still so weak and needed my protection. But after we came to Lanyan City, Mu has completely surpassed me. My realm is already far inferior to yours. It's okay, I can protect you in the future." He smiled brightly. Tang Xiaoxi's heart warmed and she nodded happily. However, she couldn't show it too obviously, so she pouted and said, "Mu, are you about to step into the heaven realm? My current cultivation is Battle Saint, just 1 step away, but I still can't break through." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "I probably need another opportunity. I plan to find a day to cultivate in the dragon-seeking forest. If I meet a suitable spirit beast, it can help me break through and step into the heaven realm." "Yes, I want to go with you. Also, you must remember our promise. The Xianxia festival will be held 3 days later. This is the invitation, you must come." "Okay." After sending off Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu secretly let out a sigh of relief. Xiao Shi was approachable, smart, and cute. She was definitely a very good girl, but his status was too different from hers. Moreover, he was currently a wanted criminal. He had a deep feeling that she was out of his league. He didn't want to be a gigolo. Even if he had any status in this world, he had to rely on his own fists to make a name for himself. He didn't want to think about anything else and obediently went to forge a new sword. This could be considered as his tuition fee for the Sword Elder, right? After all, the Sword Elder was a businessman. He definitely wouldn't lose out on this point. At night, the stars shone brightly. The Imperial Army camp was brightly lit. The cavalry galloped in front of the central army tent. The 10 Kiliarchs on duty at night had already led their subordinates to patrol the capital. In the central tent, Feng Jixing was holding an oil lamp and holding a bamboo scroll in his hand. On the bottom of the scroll, there were 4 big words, 7 scrolls of victorious tactics. This was the military strategy passed down from generation to generation by the founding hero of the Great Qin Empire, Xiang Wendian, who was known as the God of War. Every general of the empire would study the 7 scrolls of victorious tactics, but it was unknown how many people could truly comprehend the profound meaning within. Rustle? The curtain was lifted and a captaincy cupped his fists and said, "Lord Commander, the people from the Military Police Battalion have arrived." Military Police Battalion? Feng Jixing raised his head and looked. The light from the oil lamp flickered slightly, illuminating his handsome face. What are the people from the Military Police Battalion doing at the Forbidden Army? Who led them? It's the commander of the Military Police Battalion, Xiangyu. Xiangyu? Feng Jixing frowned and stood up. He brushed his battle robe and said, "Follow me to welcome them." Outside the tent, Xiangyu walked over with dozens of military police battalion generals. From afar, he cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Brother Feng, long time no see. You are still as handsome as ever." Feng Jixing smiled and cupped his fists and said, "Subordinate Feng Jixing greets Lord Xiangyu." Xiangyu smiled and said, "You and I are both commanders of the empire. There is no need to be so formal." Even so, Feng Jixing still gave a military salute. Although the total number of military police battalion was only 2,000 people, they had the most power in the imperial army. Even he, the commander of the 30,000 imperial army, had to be respectful to Xiangyu. "I wonder what important matter Lord Xiangyu has come to the imperial army camp this time?" Feng Jixing asked. Xiangyu laughed and said, "It's a small matter. Let's talk inside the tent." After entering the imperial army tent, Xiangyu sat down on the commander's seat without a trace of politeness. The high-ranking imperial army generals immediately glared at him. Luo Lai had already placed his palm on the hilt of his sword, but Feng Jixing stopped him with a stern look. Xiangyu naturally had his reasons for being so arrogant. He had the right to be so. Pressing his hand on the table, Xiangyu looked at the 7 victorious scrolls next to the oil lamp and couldn't help but laugh. "General Feng is studying the military books passed down by our ancestors?" "Yes." Feng Jixing smiled respectfully and said, "I can only study 1 or 2 of them. This general is slow-witted and cannot completely understand the essence of the war god." "General Feng is too modest." Xiangyu smiled coldly and said, "General Feng should have heard of the murder of Cathaya City's Hua Tian, right? The murderer, Lin Muyu, is said to have infiltrated Lanyan City." "What do you mean, my lord?" Xiangyu waved his hand lightly and said with a smile, "Our military police camp is short on manpower and cannot search the entire city for Lin Muyu. That is why we have come to the Imperial Army camp to ask General Feng to act on our behalf. The Imperial Army of 30,000 is enough to turn the Imperial capital upside down to capture Lin Muyu." Feng Jixing's heart trembled. He cupped his hands and said, "My lord, please forgive this general for being powerless. Lanyan City is the imperial capital, the city of true dragons. If we wish to search the entire city for Lin Muyu, we must have His Majesty's handwritten decree. Otherwise, this general cannot comply. The imperial army's mission is to protect the imperial city, not to capture felons." Feng Jixing said it straightforwardly, without the slightest intention of giving in. Xiangyu slowly rose to his feet and looked at him coldly. "General Feng has reminded me that I must go to Zetian Temple to have an audience with His Majesty first before I can search for the criminal." Feng Jixing smiled faintly. "Yes, my lord, you have come in vain." Xiangyu's expression was cold. He walked down from the commander's seat and stepped on the dark blue carpet of the central army tent. He looked at Feng Jixing with a cold gaze and said with a smile, "How can I come in vain? I heard that General Feng has studied ancestor Xiang Wentian's wind saber technique for many years and is known as the strongest master of wind saber technique in the empire. I happen to be free today. Can you enlighten me?" Feng Jixing was stunned. "This general dares not fight with you, my lord. It's okay. It's just a sparring session." Xiangyu raised his hand and pulled out a saber from his subordinate's waist. He said with a smile, "Xiangyu is not good at using a saber and is not qualified to use one. Is it okay for me to borrow this subordinate saber, General Feng?" Feng Jixing's heart trembled. He took the saber from his subordinate and cupped his hands and said, "My lord, we won't overdo it." Slowly spreading his battle chi, Xiangyu's battle robe fluttered behind him and the light on the saber sword. He was a powerhouse who had stepped into the second layer of Heaven Realm. Naturally, his aura was much stronger than Feng Jixing, a first-layer Heaven Realm powerhouse. With a slight tremble of the saber, he had already launched an attack. The blade cut through the air fiercely. After 5 consecutive slashes, the flames all over his body soared. The first-grade martial soul, Trampling Fire Tiger, was released. This was the legendary martial soul that Xiang Wenyan once possessed, mighty battle chi. Dang dang dang, sparks splashed. Feng Jixing blocked several times in a row and lowered his feet to sweep out. Xiang Yu leaped up to avoid this attack. In the air, the sharp claws of the trampling fire tiger fused with the saber, and a powerful and heavy saber slashed toward Feng Jixing's neck. Feng Jixing's movement technique was excellent. As soon as the saber hilt touched the ground, he used the force to slide half a meter and soared into the sky with his battle boots covered in battle chi. Bang! With a heavy blow, Xiang Yu's fist landed on Feng Jixing's battle boots. Battle chi surged and the wind formed a shock wave, causing the surrounding generals to retreat several steps. Feng Jixing looked up at the sky, purple battle chi all over his body. His second-grade martial soul, Purple Electric Flame Wolf, had already been released, and his eyes were filled with an unyielding fighting spirit. Again! Xiang Yu stayed in the air for a few seconds, then suddenly waved his long saber and slashed down again, using the same windwalking saber technique. Dang dang dang, another series of collisions occurred. Feng Jixing was forced to retreat again and again. Suddenly, a cold light was pressed against his neck. Behind him was a pillar of the tent, and there was no way to retreat. The saber in Xiang Yu's hand was pressed straight against Feng Jixing's neck, his face brimming with a smile. It seems that General Feng's windwalking saber technique has not been cultivated to perfection. With that said, he withdrew his saber and said, since the Imperial Guard is unwilling to move out to search for Lin Muyu, then it's a good thing the military police battalion came. Watching Xiang Yu's receding figure, Feng Jixing let out a long sigh of relief. At the side, Luo Lai said, Commander, with your saber cultivation, you shouldn't have been subdued by Xiang Yu's clumsy move just now. Feng Jixing's expression was complicated. He slowly shook his head and said, a loss is a loss, there's no need to say anything more. Xiang Yu, he's someone we can't afford to offend. Even Xiang Yu has begun to interfere in this matter. Yu is becoming more and more dangerous. Immediately send Yu Yu's letter to Silver Fir City and have the people there search for evidence faster. Otherwise, we won't be able to prove Yu's innocence. Chapter 75. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. The banquet was held at night, so Lin Muyu did not go there early. Instead, he cultivated the imperial sword technique in the courtyard of his residence in the sacred hall. The flames in the prairie fire sword were faintly discernible. The body of the sword was suspended in the air, controlled by an invisible force. Lin Muyu stood a few meters in front of the longsword. She closed her eyes and slowly opened her right palm to sense the lightning elemental energy in the air. The tiny and violent lightning elemental energy gathered into strands of purple lightning energy that swam between her fingers like a group of naughty children. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh at the sight of it. His compatibility with the laws of lightning was becoming more and more perfect. Among the 4 types of imperial sword technique, he seemed to be the most adept at using lightning. Very few people could withstand a lightning strike. However, he had never displayed the power of the imperial sword technique and the true dragon essence fire in the sacred hall. Just like what Lei Hong had said, in this world, one must learn to hide one's edge. Otherwise, the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. As his cultivation increased, the defensive power of the martial soul gourd alone was enough for him to look down on everyone in the sacred hall. He could even fight against a gold star instructor like Ouyang Qiu without being at a disadvantage. It was also because of his existence that the status of the sacred hall's sparring partners had risen a lot. It could be seen from the attitude of the servants and guards towards the sparring partners. After all, the position of the sparring partners in the sacred hall was punching bags. However, the appearance of Lin Muyu covered this punching bag with a layer of armor and thorns. His appearance made the group of instructors no longer look down on the sparring partners. The group of instructors led by Zhang Wei had even treated the Gold Star sparring partner Lin Muyu as a good teacher and helpful friend. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. A servant said respectfully, Lord Lin Ji, it's time. According to Princess Xi's instructions, it's time for you to set off for the Tingyu Tower. The coachman has already prepared a fine horse for you. Thank you. Lin Muyu opened his eyes. The divine light in his eyes disappeared, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. He looked harmless, as if he had returned to the playful and scolding kid. Carrying the burning prairie sword on his back, he went out. As expected, there were more than 100 fine horses in the riding training grounds of the Holy Sanctum. Usually, they were only provided to instructors and sparring masters to practice riding skills. Today, due to his relationship with Tang Xiaoxi, there was actually a horse for him to use. Immediately, Lin Muyu felt as if he had soared through the ranks and was using the public transport. He mounted the horse and performed an imperial military salute to the coachman, smiling respectfully. Thank you, I'll be back on time to send the horse back. Please don't worry. The coachman was flattered and hurriedly said, What are you talking about, sir? Please feel free to use them. Deacon Guyang has instructed that all Gold Star instructors and Gold Star sparring masters can choose their favorite warhorses from the stable. You don't have to be so polite. Yes, thank you very much. Lin Muyu smiled and slowly spurred the horse forward. The coachman stood there in a daze. He could not imagine that a Gold Star sparring master from the Holy Sanctum would treat him so respectfully. After all, the disparity in their statuses was too great. However, Lin Muyu was already used to it. He came from a good family, the son of Long Xian Group's CEO cum chairman, Lin Shun. It could be said that he grew up with a golden spoon in his mouth. Lin Shun was a gentle and docile person, so Lin Muyu grew up to be a humble person. In the eyes of others, he was a second-generation rich kid, but those who really interacted with him knew that he had a good upbringing and was humble. Even when he was facing a waiter, he was still very respectful. There was an old saying that a person's upbringing depended on his attitude towards the waiter. This saying seemed to be reflected in Lin Muyu. However, the coachman was someone from another world. Since he was young, he had been influenced by the concept of hierarchy. In his mind, Lin Muyu was a high and mighty Gold Star sparring master, a legendary lord. Lin Muyu's humility would only make the coachman feel fear. As he passed by the side hall, someone called out to him, Lin Ji, don't be in such a hurry to leave. He turned around and saw Zhang Wei walking over with a white general's robe in his hands. He said, You are a Gold Star sparring master from the Holy Sanctum. How can you wear such a shabby outfit to attend Princess Tang Xiaoxi's last Eve festival banquet? Come, the Grand Deacon asked me to give you this armor. All the Gold Star sparring masters of the Holy Sanctum wear this to meet the Emperor. Lin Muyu was stunned and quickly got off the horse. She looked at the general's robe in Zhang Wei's hands. It was actually made up of silver chainmail and a white general's cloak. She looked at her own green robes and could not help but feel ashamed. After being in the Holy Sanctum for so long, she did not seem to pay attention to her image. All right then, thank you, Sir Zhang Wei. You're welcome. Quickly change. Okay. He entered the side hall and put on the Gold Star sparring master's uniform. When he walked out, Zhang Wei's eyes lit up and he could not help but clap. That's amazing. Sir Lin Ji, Zhang Wei, have never seen anyone who fits this general's robe better than you. If Princess Xi sees this, she will definitely look at you in a different light. Lin Muyu looked down and indeed felt that he looked exceptionally energetic and handsome after wearing this uniform. With the Gold Star sparring master badge pinned to his chest, it was simply perfect. Then I'll go to the banquet. Goodbye, Sir Zhang Wei. Go! Don't forget the helmet. This uniform actually came with a helmet. It was a silver-gray battle helmet. Lin Muyu only clipped it under his armpit. It inevitably looked a little redundant when he put it on. Furthermore, this uniform was actually the uniform that the members of the Holy Sanctum wore when they participated in battles. The armor already made him feel a little uncomfortable. If he put on the helmet, he would feel like he was going to the battlefield to kill the enemy. The armor weighed nearly 10 kilograms. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's cultivation was much higher than before, so he did not feel that it was heavy. He spurred his horse out of the Holy Sanctum's main gate. From afar, he could see Chu Huaijin, who was wearing the armor of the Imperial Guards, standing in front of the Spiritual Medicine Department's main gate. He was leading 2 horses. It was obvious that he was here to pick up Chu Yao. Brother Chu Huaijin. Lin Muyu spurred his horse over and dismounted. He smiled and said, "You're here too." Chu Huaijin couldn't help but smile. "You is here. Wait a moment, Yao will be out soon." As he spoke, Chu Huaijin looked at his attire and couldn't help but laugh. This set of gold star armor that the Holy Sanctum custom-made at the Ministry of Works is really beautiful. I can't get tired of looking at it. It looks even more handsome on you. At this moment, Chu Yao came out. She was dressed in the uniform of a female pharmacist from the Spiritual Medicine Department. She was graceful. When she saw Lin Muyu, she almost didn't recognize her. Her eyes widened as she giggled. "I almost couldn't recognize you when he's dressed like this. But he looks quite good." "Thank you, Sister Chu Yao. Shall we set off?" But the 3 of them mounted their horses together. Chu Huaijin spurred his horse and led the way in front. Lin Muyu and Chu Yao followed behind slowly. Chu Huaijin and Lin Muyu were both wearing the robes of a general, so they looked very serious. The pedestrians on Skirich Street all gave way to them, even though they weren't riding very fast. Not long after, they arrived at a quiet courtyard. It was Tingyu Tower. From afar, a few shop assistants walked up and asked with a smile, "Sirs, do you have invitations?" Lin Muyu took out the invitation that Tang Xiaoxi had left behind. "So it's Princess Xi's guest. Please go up to the 7th floor. Leave the horses to us." At this time, the sun had already set. Red lanterns were lit everywhere in the courtyard of the rain-listening building. Young and beautiful maidservants, who looked like palace maids, were busy carrying delicacies and fruit trays, going straight up to the 7th floor. That was the most expensive box in the rain-listening building. Especially on a day like the Upper West Festival, the cost of reserving the 7th floor was extraordinarily expensive. I heard that the cost of the 7th floor of Tingyu Tower during the last lunar festival is 700 Jinin coins a night. Chu Yao stuck out her tongue and laughed. Chu Huaijin smiled slightly. "It's okay, we don't have to treat you." Lin Muyu said, "Yes, Xiaoxi is rich, she doesn't care about this." When the 3 of them went upstairs, they saw a group of Imperial Guards guarding outside the door. The commander of the Imperial Guards, Qin Lei, was wearing a general's robe and had his hand on the hilt of his sword. He smiled and said, "All the guests are here." He didn't recognize Lin Muyu and asked in surprise, "This is?" Chu Huaijin said respectfully, reporting to Lord Commander, "He is Princess Xi's guest, Lin Muyu." "Let's go in." Qin Lei grinned and didn't say anything. When they entered, they saw that Tang Xiaoxi and Feng Jixing were already there. Tang Xiaoxi quickly stood up and smiled. "All right, since everyone is here, let's quickly take a seat. I'll ask them to serve the dishes." "Yes, I'll listen to the princess." "Mu, come and sit beside me," Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed, but Chu Huaijin smiled and gave him a look. He could only walk over dejectedly. His armor made some noises as he sat down beside Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at him. A trace of confusion flashed past her beautiful eyes. She smiled and said, "Mu, the Empire's general's uniform fits you very well. I've never seen a general who fits this armor better than you." Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and said sourly, "From what the princess said, it seems that Commander Qin Lei and I don't look good in this general's robe." Qin Lei sat down and clapped his hands. "The commander of the Imperial Guards is jealous. Look at you, aren't you embarrassed to be the commander of 30,000 Imperial Guards?" Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly. "Everyone, please don't ridicule me. I'm just a sparring partner of the Divine Temple. I can't be compared to you generals who have a lot of troops." Qin Lei shook his head and smiled. "Hey, you don't have to be so modest. We all know that you're the strongest sparring partner in the Divine Temple. Moreover, the Divine Temple is the cradle of the Empire's famous generals. Many famous generals came from the Divine Temple. Feng Jixing, Chu Huaijin, and I were all from the Divine Temple, so you don't have to be so modest." "Yes, thank you." What's your name? Qin Lei was stunned. He couldn't help but laugh. My name is Qin Lei. I'm the eldest son of Prince Jining. I'm the commander of the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that tonight's Eve banquet was not simple. The people that Tang Xiaoxi invited seemed to be more powerful than the other. This Qin Lei was the son of a prince. He was definitely one of the top figures in the empire. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.